morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chavez. Chavez is absent. McCann. McCann is absent. Vargas. Vargas is absent. Goebel.
Present.
Aguirre.
Here.
Dillard.
Here.
Gaston.
Here.
Rodriguez is absent. Frank.
Here.
Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Elo Rivera.
Present.
Moreno is absent. Whitburn.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Clerk.
That's me.
Let's move to non-agenda public comment. We have a lot on the agenda today and we have substantial public comment. So for meeting management purposes, we will offer 1 minute per person for public comment for anybody who would like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda, but is within the purview of MTS. Clerk, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
We do. We have several. Louis Pruitt, please make your way to the podium.
Good morning, everybody in council. Well, I got 3 things to say. I'm gonna try to do it real quick in 1 minute. The first thing is the trolley where you have the panel on there that shows you that the next stop that's going. Why can't you have the time up there too? I understand we have cell phones, but it would be nice once that goes by, then the time goes by too, because not everybody have a cell phone. The second one is, I'll make it real quick, is the 901. Is there any way we can have a 901 express? This would be from the hours from 7 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon. 7 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, and 5 in the afternoon. This way, and when it gets to the bridge, it can go when it gets to Cesar Chavez, it can go on the expressway, go to Palm, get off on Palm, go all the way down to 9th, and then from 9th, go to Iris and then come back. And the last thing, and I'll make it very quick, we need to get rid of the Sunday schedule. The Sunday schedule is terrible. Can we make it a weekend schedule with the Saturday?
Your time has expired.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, Mr. Pruitt, the Director of Planning is over there, Dennis Desmond. He can talk to you about your ideas.
Alex Wong, please unmute yourself now.
Hi, my name is Alex Wong, and I am a data researcher at RAD-SD. That's why I strongly support MTS's proposal to increase mid-coast trolley peak frequencies to 7.5 minutes by June 2025. This frequency increase could not come sooner. For the year 2023 to date, the trolley boasted the highest ridership of any American light rail system. University City is already dense and growing even denser. UCSD Central Campus Station has 2 23-story student apartment towers under construction west of the station, while Pepper Canyon East on the east side of the station could have over 4,000 student apartments. The University City Community Plan update will add 30,000 housing units to the neighborhood. What's more, University City is home to hospitals, a mega mall, and the region's largest university, all of which have commuters and visitors coming and leaving all throughout the day. That's why the logical next step is to increase off-peak frequencies on the mid-coast to 7.5 minutes, as well for transit to capture not just the 9 to 5 commuter market, but also capture all-day ridership and to transform University City into a transit-oriented neighborhood.
Your time has expired. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
On October 25th, a 21-year-old was slashed in the chest with a knife by a woman carrying a bottle of alcohol and a knife on a trolley in the safest area possible. On November 1st, a 20-year-old was punched and knocked unconscious with a bottle by a man. Did it matter if these criminals paid $250 to ride the trolley? No, it mattered that there was at least one armed security on the trolley car. But some of you fools had security wasting time at one stop, and now it was proven right. And Steve, you have the audacity to expect a fair hike to ride under these lack of security conditions with 82 assaults last year alone that perception now failed to mention. I hope lawsuits for negligence happen so some of you can really feel a hard lesson they would have already known if you actually rode the trolley. And if it's true that the Operation Fair Shakedowns were audits to see how many people pay, Steve, then how come I already knew that MTS's fair recovery rate is 21%? And if the point was really security, then why were the operations in El Cajon, La Mesa, when the Park and Market and 12th and Imperial stations have way higher amounts of crime?
Your time
There's
has
an East
expired.
County
That concludes public comment, Chair. And for the record, I want to note that Member Donovan was here at the start of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Clerk. Next, we have the appointment of an ad hoc nominating committee for recommending appointments to MTS committees, as well as the Chair Pro Tem for 2024. This committee will likely meet once in late December or early January to make recommendations to the full board. So far, Vice Chair Goebel, Member Elo Rivera, Member Gaston, and I have expressed a willingness to serve on the nominating committee. We could have a maximum of 7 board members on the nominating committee. So if anybody else would be interested in serving, we can add up to 3 more, or we can vote to appoint a nominating committee of the 4 people I named. Would anybody else like to serve on the nominating committee? I see Member Dillard.
Yes.
And I see Member Hall. And I see Member Donovan. Okay, that would get us to 7. Did anybody else, if anybody else wants to serve, that would take us to 8, and it would result in us having an election for the nominating committee. Otherwise, we will vote on the slate of 7 names that we have called so far. All right, Member Hall.
Motion to proceed.
Okay, so we have a motion to
I'll
proceed.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to elect an ad hoc nominating committee for appointments to MTS committees for next year, as well as the Chair Pro Tem. And that committee will consist of Vice Chair Goebel, Member Elo Rivera, Member Gastel, Member Dillard, Member Hall, Member Donovan, and myself. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
The East County Click has its supposed safety agenda of fair recovery ops and ALPRs, only beneficial for a police state, and the San Diego Squad has its supposed free transit agenda scam for a 100% social welfare transit system that less than 3% of taxpayers actually use.
For the speaker, this is
MTS
this item is on the motion that is before us to appoint an ad hoc nominating committee. Did you want to speak to that item, or are you intending to speak to another item?
No, I'm talking about you guys that are on this nominating committee.
Okay,
Because
go
all
ahead.
of
Please,
you
please
clearly
proceed.
don't respect the writers. And the writers will continue to not respect MTS. And none of you should wonder why people don't respect you and people don't want to pay, because respect must be earned. And most of you here do not deserve to be on this committee. You don't even deserve to be on this board with the way you guys have been neglecting your duties. So I'd like to see somebody from a different city without scandals representing the MTS space at SANDAG. And at a lot of these boards, somebody who knows about public security needs to be on the public security committee. That kind of thing. All these political agendas and personal agendas, you guys got to quit being childish. Pick somebody who's best for the job, not political blocks.
Your
It
time
needs
has
to be
expired.
balanced.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Do we have any board discussion on the motion in front of us? Seeing no further board discussion, all those in favor of adopting the nominating committee with the 7 members identified, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you to everybody who has expressed a willingness and will be serving. Let's move on to our consent items. Our consent items are items 4 through 18. Clerk, is there any public comment on the consent items?
We do. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Well, this is going to be fun. We're going to pretend we can get through a consent with 1 minute. Item 5, meeting should be 10 a.m. or later. Let's see, item 6, SANDAG's going to absorb MTS. Item 8, bunch of waste of money on items that are not going to work, $1.3 million over 5 years. Item 9, bus operator uniforms, $2.6 million. And some of them are going to be wearing a patch with the Canadian flag. I think that says a lot. Item 13, $287,000 for cleaning. Hey, you guys, are you cleaning the trash cans people literally use as toilets? I don't think so. Item 15, $700,000 for a study for the Euclid Avenue station to connect Orange and Green. How about get safety under control first at that station? And I'm worried about a conflict of interest with the consultant personas located at the Wells Fargo building with SANDAG and its VP, Sarah Curran. Is she related to the
Your
new
time has
MTS?
expired. Alex Wong, please unmute yourself now.
Yes, so regarding item 15, I am glad that you are studying a way to improve Baltimore Junction. However, instead of a Y, may I recommend that maybe you turn that flat junction into a flying junction, because currently sometimes orange trains have to stop for green trains in the opposite direction to cross the junction and vice versa. So if you could convert the flat junction into a flying junction, I think that would allow for much more reliability on a day-to-day basis than simply making a Y, although perhaps a Y would be worth it if you were simply to move trains around, but certainly not in revenue service. And I would also recommend against further interlining that area, as it would lead to less operational efficiency and more unreliability.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. Thank you to our public commenters. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, please proceed.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I will move approval of the consent agenda, but I just want to acknowledge item number 15, the Baltimore Junction and Euclid Avenue Planning Study. For decades, residents in the city of San Diego's 4th Council District have asked for grade separation at the Euclid Charlie Station. I'm really glad to see momentum happening that will make this project a reality. Just want to comment on that, and thank Sharon and the rest of the MTS team for making this happen. It means so much to the constituents. And just really quick, the removal of trees that has been done on the Orange Line as well. These types of improvements are really special and give community members hope that, they're being listened to. So thank you so much, and I move approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Member Dillard. Any further discussion on the consent items? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. That motion carries. That brings us to our discussion and report items. We're going to begin with item number 19, and that is a SANDAG report on airport transit connection. Would our presenters please identify yourself for the record, and please proceed when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Ryan Cohut. I'm Strategic Projects Director at SANDAG. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you the Airport Transit Connector project and a concept study that we recently completed. We're really excited to share the results of that study, in that I think we've identified real feasible projects that could connect the airport to our regional transit system. We shared this report with the SANDAG board back in late July. And the takeaway is that, after 40 years, we think we've really identified, a feasible, fundable, achievable path to getting that transit connection in place, and really achieve the policy goals around sustainability. This project would benefit the entire region. It provides mobility options to not only get in and around the airport, benefiting transit riders, but also those who are still going to access the airport using a car. But before we start, I'd really like to thank MTS staff for working so closely with us to identify the trolley option in the study. With everything else they have to do, they met with us over a half a dozen times. This information was really critical to really helping us nail that down and ensure that we had a full range of viable concepts to connect the airport. Let's see here. Here's an overview of what we'll cover today. I'll provide details on the concept study and background on kind of how this process got started. Then some of the key findings, along with some of the next steps to advance this project through the development process. Most importantly, we want to hear your feedback. We presented to the SANDAG board in July. We've been spending some time reaching out to the public, to our partner agencies, and we want to really know what you guys feel about these concepts and how we move forward. Most importantly, we believe that we can really make this happen together. Providing an airport, transit connection to the airport has been a priority for the region for many years. SANDAG really started this effort in earnest back in 2018 with the formation of an airport connectivity subcommittee that, kind of dove into what those opportunities would be and kind of set us on our course. We know there's a need. The airport is going to grow, and with this growth, we anticipate that travel in and out of the airport is going to get more constrained and trip times are going to increase. And, we see that a direct connection between the airport and our urban core is urgently needed in order to help transit passengers access the airport without needing a car. And by taking those cars off the road, we're going to alleviate traffic in and around the airport for those who still want to drive. With the funding opportunities available, coupled with the partnerships that we have in the region, we really believe that there's a competitive project out here that, will be really competitive for the really unprecedented state and federal funding opportunities that are available, especially through the Biden infrastructure law that has recently come to be. At the direction of the Airport Connectivity Subcommittee and the SANDAG Board, we studied 3 modes to provide that airport transit connection: an automated people mover system, an extension of the trolley system, and enhanced bus service. APM systems, which are common throughout the country for both on airport and off airport connections. Provide fast, frequent, high capacity, reliable transit service. The vehicles are configured for travelers with level roll-on, roll-off boarding with ample space inside. We looked at the extension of the trolley. Obviously, we're all familiar with that. These vehicles are, configured for, commuter transit use. So there's a little bit more difficulty with luggage. The operation of an airport connection trolley would still have to operate within the greater trolley system. We also looked at bus service that would operate on existing roadways. On-time service and reliability could be enhanced by converting general purpose lanes to bus-only lanes where possible, and then doing signal priority projects to allow those buses to get in and through intersections a little faster. This is a look at what we studied as far as the trolley extension. It would operate as a new service from here at 12th and Imperial all the way up to Hawthorne Street, where it would break off the existing trolley main line and then head up to Harbor Drive and onto the airport property. New connections to trolley, coaster, and Amtrak and buses would occur at Santa Fe Depot, with additional connections here at 12th and Imperial. We looked at 5 different alternative concepts for APM systems. This map integrates each of these concepts with dashed lines showing the connection options we studied. 2 of the options only went north, either to the car rental facility or to Old Town Transit Center. 3 of the options go both north and south, with the southern route ending at either Santa Fe Depot, at the Convention Center, or in our downtown Civic Core. Each of these concepts has an optional station at Harbor Island, and the southern routes include an optional station at the County Administration Building. It's important to note that the north and the south routes could be funded and constructed either as individual phases of a single project or as 2 or more standalone projects. As many of you know, LAX is currently working on a people mover to connect their airport. The difference between what we're proposing and that is that we're looking to connect our airport directly into our regional transit system, including Amtrak. And what that means is, LA, Orange County, San Diego County would all have, through that Amtrak connection, a transfer opportunity to get to the airport. a one-seat ride between that three, county mega region and the San Diego International Airport. To understand kind of the feasibility, we also looked at a south leg only concept that connects to the trolley, low san, and local and regional buses at Santa Fe Depot. It could then continue onward either to our downtown civic core or to the convention center. This is a concept that we've kind of really identified as a really feasible, path that can really serve our core transit users. In contrast, the north-only routes serve car rental users, kiss and ride users, and trolley passengers, all connecting at a potential transit station, roughly at the port headquarters site in the Middletown Transit or Middletown Trolley Stop. NCTD has expressed some concerns about adding a low-san connection at that Middletown port site due to some of their operational concerns. Because it has more robust connections to regional transit options, we really think a southern connection through Santa Fe Depot really makes the most sense to connect regional destinations, including the airport. A connection south to the downtown core also would serve our 2021 SANDAG regional plan goals to significantly increase transit ridership. The final concept studied was the enhanced bus service, as I described earlier. These images show the two existing bus routes that currently serve the airport, the MTS Route 992 and the San Diego Flyer, which is operated by the Airport Authority. What we proposed is keeping the same routes, but enhancing service, as I mentioned earlier, with bus-only lanes and traffic signal priority. The next few slides, highlight some of the key performance findings for each of these concepts, and so I figured we'd start with ridership. This slide here compares the projected ridership for each concept. It's important to keep in mind, though, that there are different types of riders here. The green bars show passengers that would be dropped off or picked up at a new transit center at the port headquarters site, kind of a kiss and ride type of passenger before continuing to the airport. The purple bars show passengers that would access the airport connector from the car rental center. So these would largely be, car rental users who are picking and dropping off a car. We really want to focus on the blue bars. The blue bars are transit riders. These are people who are using the broader regional transit system to access the airport connection. These are the transit riders that really help us drive their key regional plan goals regarding sustainability, transit use, and reducing VNT and GHG emissions. We know that these transit riders are really important to the Airport Authority, and is, what they were really focused on when they committed up to $300 million to fund a transit connection, as well as providing space on the airport property for not only the connection, but a station as well. Increasing transit ridership is also a key metric to make us competitive for federal and state funding. And as you can see, a south connection, an APM connection really serves the most transit riders. I'd also note that, the trolley also, serves transit riders as well. Largely the same connection to downtown. The next thing we looked at was cost. This table provides kind of a high-low estimate for each concept. These are largely elevated configurations. The trolley is largely at grade on the existing main line, but also requires some tunneling and trenching as we cross it from the east side of the low sand heavy rail to the west. And, really, I think what you see here is, the APM South leg connecting downtown and the trolley are both in that kind of $1 to $2 billion window that we think is very competitive for federal and state grant funding. This slide, we're, trying to just look at funding. we're already off to a great start with our partnership with the airport and the, $300 million commitment they've already made to a transit connection, which I think really makes this, this project much stronger when we go out and look for those federal and state dollars. And we're excited about the opportunity to go out and identify, funding for this. What you're seeing here on the right is, kind of a example of a $1.5 billion project and how we would fund it. We would look for a 50% grant opportunity from the federal government. We already have a $300 million contribution from the airport. And so we would be looking for state or federal funding to fill the rest. And on the left is kind of an example of what we did on the recently completed Midcoast project. That was a $2.1 billion project where we were able to go out there and get a federal New Starts grant for 50% of the cost and then, come together with the rest locally. So, we feel we have a great record of going out there and getting those federal and state dollars to, bring projects in on time and budget. And, I think this project right out of the gate is going to be very competitive for federal funding. We spent the last few months meeting with the public and stakeholders, sharing a lot of this information and soliciting feedback. We are excited to return to the board and talk to them about how we move this project forward. And we're really looking to get this project into the formal environmental review process. So then we can turn ourselves to not only diving in on the technical details of a much narrower range of alternatives, but starting the process of going out there and fighting for those federal and state dollars. Federal and state environmental law require us to consider a range of alternatives. Both a South Lake APM and the trolley serve transit riders. They both connect our downtown urban core to the airport. And, I expect that we'll be recommending them to advance for continued study in the formal environmental process. With that, I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kohat. We also have a community group who requested to present to the board on this matter. Janet Rogers will provide the presentation. Ms. Rogers, you will have 5 minutes. Please proceed to the podium and proceed when you're ready.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We're wearing red today to support the trolley. It's one of the best light rail systems in the country. Rail to the airport and beyond should be an integrated regional transit system using the trolley, not this APM. Some of the problems with the APM, downtown, it is redundant and duplicative rail, and that's going to be very hard to get funding for the federal and for Caltrans. Why in the world would they fund duplicate rail? The ATM, it's a giant eyesore, concrete, massive structure on our really important ceremonial streets. The APM, it's a stand-up vehicle. It's not good for expansion. It doesn't accommodate people with disabilities or seniors. An unmanned vehicle is going to be a safety issue going out at night. And we really think they did 11, just to this downtown part, they did 11 versions of looking at the APM and one of the trolley. Let's have a fair chance. We're talking about duplicate transit here. You know the green and you know the blue. Look at where they're putting this red. Coming down Pacific Highway, it is a half a block away. When it changes and goes down Broadway, they are looking at 1 block away from the trolley. If it goes down to the convention center, it's going to have to be on top of the green line. This is a terrible plan. We're looking at, it squeezes. If you look down that Pacific Highway corridor, you have apartments, hotels, and massive condos. You are looking at squeezing people in that half block. It's like living in a rail yard. You've got Amtrak and the trolley and the BSNF on one side. Now you want to put rail on the other side. You don't want to live in the middle of a rail yard. Neither does anybody else. How are the riders supposed to get to this? There is no one-seat ride here. You're going to have to transfer. For the people downtown, this is not really that big a deal for them. You've got a great bus system. Go ahead and improve the bus, and that would be really good. People are 2 miles away. They take Uber otherwise. If you're not going to do that, if you're going to get there without a car, we're looking at, you're going to spend your first bit on probably the trolley or the bus. They keep talking about this has this great amount of room for your luggage. You're on the trolley to start with. So what? We can spend $2 billion. So the last 2 miles, you can stand up, but your luggage will have room. That's cool. Okay, this is what we're talking about. This is a people mover in downtown Detroit, massive concrete structure. Picture this on Broadway and Pacific Highway. There are some of these, as they got them in Miami, they've got them in Tokyo, massive concrete structures. These are places with 38 million people, 6 million people. Singapore has one. They're a little island with 6 million people, no place to go but up. SANDAG's telling us we're only going to grow another 40,000 people by 2060. We do not have the need to go to elevated rail downtown. This is what you guys did out on Genesee. This is a great idea to get the trolley, but this is a massive structure. This is what it takes to raise a rail line in the middle of the street. That is a purely commercial area. That's fine. This is not. You are talking about a residential area for most of it, and the other part are ceremonial main streets downtown. You know what people movers look like. They are stand-up vehicles. This is not a good vehicle if we want to extend it and have a really good transit system. You want to go to Liberty Station, the sports area, Midway, even to the beaches. You want to stand up the whole way? No. It's not good for people with disabilities. It's not good for being unmanned. This is the wrong way to go forward with transit. I agree with Ryan when he said that what they studied in the trolley is not a good idea. They knew that after 5 minutes. So why didn't they study something else? Even I put the red lines in. This is the little bit you'd have to add in from Midtown. You've got other options. We need at least half a dozen studies on the trolley. We're looking at a $2 billion in 2020. $2 is going to cost a lot more than that. Even at a 20% local share, it's 4 million. I think he's 400 million. I think he said 450 they're looking at, so that you can basically duplicate the trolley lines downtown. Without Caltrans, you wind up having a 50% share. You'd be $1 billion locally for this. People love the concept of rail to the airport. So do I. This is the wrong way to do it. All right, there's a lot of money out there, I agree. And so we should be using it for good regional transit projects, not gimmicks. Funding's not based on the most outlandish project that you can think of. Trolley ridership in their actual study that they did, the trolley ridership was better per route study. The trolley cost was better. The trolley cost per rider was better. The trolley is better for the number of stops and expansion. The trolley is better for people with disabilities. But SANDAG picked the APM anyway.
30 seconds
If you
left.
really have an alternative, look at a streetcar, because that's what everybody else is doing. And the Port Master Plan actually has it in there that the port is looking at using their dedicated transit lines on Harbor Drive. I don't know if any of you guys even talk to each other. So please insist on an extensive study of the trolley to the airport and reject the elevated APM. There is one more thing.
Your time has
This
expired.
is just to look at what Ryan was talking about. This is our study. If you look at federal funding,
We're going to
they
have
look
to
at visibility. In order to get more ridership, they had to go to 2 minutes.
Thank
They
you, Ms.
don't tell you
Rogers.
that. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers, for the presentation. Let's go ahead and take public comment on this item. Again, everybody will have 1 minute. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. We have 11 public comments. Bill Rogers, please make your way to the podium.
Good morning. I'm Bill Rogers. I live in downtown San Diego. You know, simply because SANDAG proposes a plan doesn't mean we should do it. They're on a hat trick here. In other words, this is their third bad idea. A central station at Navarre failed. Moving all the rail, including the trolley and Amtrak under City Hall, failed. Now, this poorly conceived idea of elevated rail into downtown needs to follow suit. Stop it before CEQA. Thank you.
Anne Marie Molino. Please make your way to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Anne Marie Molino. I too live downtown, and we are in support of the trolley expansion concept 6. We oppose concepts 3, 4, and 5 for the APM. I think the APM is a good solution to connect the rental car station to the terminals, but not to duplicate our existing trolley system. Thank you.
Paul Sessi, please make your way to the podium.
Hello. I'm against the SANDAG elevated automated people mover. I think there were concepts, the first few concepts, 1 through 5. And I'm asking the board prior to approval or endorsement of these concepts to insist on a new trolley study to the airport and reject SANDAG's elevated automated people mover. The people mover duplicates rail service already in downtown, which is a waste of money. Expanding the trolley to the airport may allow transit to Liberty Station, Sports Arena, and Midway districts, and even to the coast of the beach. The automatic people mover is a wrong vehicle for that type of expansion. I think it was described earlier. The 3-story ATM or automated people mover will be a giant concrete structure that creates a visual eyesore. It will be an invasion
Your
of
time has
privacy
expired.
every 2 to 5 minutes, 50 to 60 feet away from bedroom windows, living room windows, and balconies of
you.
condos facing Pacific Highway.
Gary Molino, please make your way to the podium.
Hey, this is Gary Molino. I live downtown as well. I've been to a couple of these presentations. You know, they say the trolley isn't set up for the ridership, yet they rely on the trolley to get us to the APM. They say the APM is going to go every 2 to 4 minutes, but they rely on the trolley to get to the APM again, which goes every 15 minutes. So it's not going to really pick up. Having a faster trolley or APM every 2 to 4 minutes isn't going to get any more passengers. They said they reached out to the community. They only went to one building, which is Sabina, which is on Kettner, not even on Pacific Highway. We at Breeza were invited to that meeting, and at the last minute, we were told we were not invited anymore. They didn't want an opposition, but they state that they've had a community outreach and that everybody's been in favor of it. This has been a pet project of their CEO forever, and he's quoted in the union as saying, you know, this thing's got, well, I won't mention the legs, but anyway, we're looking at 2 miles along Pacific Highway and along Harbor. Right now, I drove down Harbor. There's palm trees all the way down. There's a beautiful, gorgeous view of the bay. And we're going to put up this
Your time has
monstrosity
expired.
structure. You know, this is America's finest city. Is this what you want the travelers that come here to see, is a big cement structure?
Thank you.
Pat Ransel, please make your way to the podium.
Morning. My name is Pat Ransel, and I'm a resident downtown. I'm in support of public transit. Every good airport needs a good transit line link. This is not the way to do it. Options 3, 4, and 5 are redundant. They don't make use of the light rail line that we already have. I like concepts 1 or concept 6, or some better studies of how you use the current infrastructure to link up with the structure that's already going to be built within the airport from the Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 out to the parking structure. So again, I reject the elevated APM plan, and I want to see a better study of concepts 1 and 6 or something like that that uses the current system that we have. Thank you.
James Hoffman, please make your way to the podium.
Good morning. My name is James Hoffman, and I live with my wife at 1431 Pacific Highway. So we're looking at having this elevated concrete structure right in front of us, between us and the park and the harbor. And I strongly object to it. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and in 1959, San Francisco constructed the Embarcadero Freeway, a double-decked highway all along the waterfront in San Francisco. It was awful. It was universally abhorred. 32 years later, when Loma Prieta the earthquake damaged it, the city of San Francisco had a choice of fixing it or tearing it down, and they chose to demolish it. I don't want to see that happen here. I think it's a great mistake not to use the trolley system. I love the trolley. I use it all the time. Please don't do it. Thank you.
Monica Thresher. Please make your way to the podium.
Good morning, Board and Brian, thank you. I want to say that I agree that we need a people mover within the airport. I disagree adamantly about options 3, 4, and 5 to extend it to downtown along Pacific Highway, duplicating our transit system and destroying our beautiful city and its ambiance. Oh, did you hear me before? Do I have to repeat myself? You got me? Okay. I just want you to envision Pacific Highway, the children's park there with this concrete monstrosity running down it. Just envision it. Just envision it. For a beautiful city? No. Thank you so much.
Stephen Kong, please make your way to the podium.
Good morning, Steve Kahn. I live downtown in Bayside. I believe it's just going to be an eyesore to all the tourists and all the residents in San Diego. As people have noted, it's going to be 3rd or 4th story up. It's running down a residential part of the city. Anybody in Little Italy or Central Civic Center, when they're looking towards the water, they're going to see this eyesore. I think automated people mover maybe to Middletown makes sense. It goes through a commercial district. It's shorter, could connect to the trolley there, or extend a trolley line to the airport seems to make a lot of sense, which could continue on to Liberty Station and further on there. I just think it's a really poorly thought out idea. And I don't think it will add any benefit to downtown experience. And as people said, I haven't seen any information on where people go. Do most people come from the north or the east or the west? This is really taking everybody east, and everybody needs to get there some other way.
Your time has expired.
All right, thank you.
Paul Herstein, please make your way to the podium.
Thank you for listening. I'm also a resident downtown. I'm a strong believer in the trolley. And I think all of us would favor continued development of the trolley system as an integrated transport system. This so-called APM, anti-people monstrosity, is well suited to compete with the trolley rather than to enhance it. The people mover, of course, has been a spectacular failure in Detroit and would be here as well. We need to, if indeed we have an opportunity to spend another $1.5 or $2 billion, let's spend it to enhance the trolley. Thanks.
Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
The SANDAG 60 is ironic to talk about Hassan's $5 billion regional pipe dream that few at SANDAG like. A city college bus connection doesn't make any sense. SANDAG will pay $40 million just for the studies of an automated people mover, yet the trip time reductions are non-existent. For San Ysidro, the time period between an APM and a trolley is a measly 2 minutes for well over $3 to $7 billion. SANDAG's own charts show that there wouldn't even be any major difference in ridership. And an APM aligns with the already existing trolley lines. It's only a 1 block difference, and what will probably cause more issues for MTS. So who does it really benefit? Hassan, the airport, and the airport authority, full of interesting people with conflicts of interest. They're the real beneficiaries. The airport puts in zero money to a project that brings them revenue and costs the taxpayers billions. Pretty much nobody's even going to use it except their airport workers. It's a $5 billion scam that just wasted everyone 60 seconds to hear about again. And the 20-mile-per-hour
Your
trolley.
time has expired. Alex Wong, please unmute yourself now.
It behooves MTS to support the south leg only automated people mover, which will come every 2 minutes versus every 15 minutes with the airport trolley. That's a deal breaker. With long, unpredictable airport security and check-in times, the last thing travelers need is more waiting. So instead of waiting up to 15 minutes for a trolley and risk missing their flight, they'll book an Uber in advance. Rideshare is more expensive than the trolley, but is often paid by the company dime and is still cheaper than missing a flight, rebooking flights, and missing an important meeting or event at their destination. To deliver the people mover as quickly and cost effectively as possible, it's imperative to build the people mover elevated rather than underground. Yes, that would create some visual impact, but let's do what's best for the region. Transit operations funding is constantly scarce and unpredictable. The people mover's driverless nature would free up personnel, allowing MTS to deploy trolley drivers who otherwise would be driving airport trolleys to instead maximize frequency on the Mid-Coast and Green lines.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk. Thank you to all the public commenters. We will now open board discussion on this item. This is an informational item, so no action will be taken today. Do we have any board discussion on this item? Member Moreno.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all the members of the public who came to speak to us today. If I recall correctly, the original intent of the airport transit connection was to connect the airport to the central mobility hub, but I didn't see it as a proposed station in any of these maps. Has that effort now been abandoned?
No, the airport subcommittee identified two things: the need for a central mobility hub, a place where all of our transportation options, modes could come together, and provide that kind of central hub of the larger system, and an airport transit connection. So what we've done here is we're looking at the airport connection, trying to identify what the concepts are and, how we make that connection. The mobility hub itself, there is a planning effort ongoing right now, looking at basically all the transportation connections that are going to come into downtown in our regional plan, and looking at how we place that. How we do the airport connection is going to feed into that planning effort. And so that's kind of why we decided to kind of really attack the airport connection first, so it can inform a better decision later on a mobility hub.
Thank you for that. It's not clear to me from your presentation exactly why the APM South leg is a preferred option over the trolley. The trolley has a lower capital cost and seems to have a similar level of ridership needed to justify the federal grants. Why isn't the trolley extension the preferred option to study in the EIR?
The South Leg APM has, it's faster. It has more frequent vehicles every 2 to 4 minutes. When you get to the system, an APM vehicle arrives to take you to the airport. So that efficiency drives better ridership. We think, with additional study, we're going to find out a little bit more about operating costs. That was outside the scope of what we did here. And, frankly, we believe that we need to advance both into environmental. We intend to look deeper at trolley in that environmental process. The concept study allowed us to look at a wide range of alternatives of how we best serve the region. I think what it's telling us is that we want to connect the airport to our downtown urban core, which, by the way, also serves the almost 9,400 airport employees that largely live in the southern part of our region. That airport to downtown connection, I think, is really what drives ridership, really what serves the reason. And that's why we want to get that environmental process going, do additional study, have better information, and that will inform a good decision, when we complete it, on where to invest in the region.
Got you. They probably live in the south area of our region or in Mexico, right? Or in Tijuana.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we've had very close discussions with the airport authority. We know that not everybody who uses any of these transit systems not everybody is going to be flying somewhere. There are a lot of people who work at the airport who deserve a better way to get to work. And that is a large part of what we're trying to focus on here.
Okay. Going back to the item at hand, your presentation identifies 6 stations for the APM South leg: Airport, Harbor Island, County Admin Building, Santa Fe Depot, Civic Core, and Convention Center. Of these, the only new ones would be at the airport and Harbor Island. The county admin building, Santa Fe Depot, and Civic Center are all existing blue and orange line trolley stations, while the convention center is an existing green line stop. Is it duplicative to extend the APM to stations that already have trolley services? And why not just run the APM south leg to the county admin building where passengers can use the existing trolley services to reach other stations?
We're trying to create the most robust connection we can. And that means, connecting to as many places that you can efficiently connect to. Santa Fe Depot is really important because that's where your Amtrak, your coaster, we have a lot of bus lines that already connect into that Santa Fe Depot, America Plaza area. And so those interconnections, allowing people from all over the region to get to and access the airport connection is, I think, critical. Yes, I think, a connection at the county administration building on that green line stops, connects those people on green line. But unless you're connecting to more different types of transit modes, you're not getting that robust link to the whole region that I think this connection is intended to serve.
Okay. Well, thank you for responding to my questions. I do look forward to continuing to engage with SANDAG about this project, and also would encourage the members of the audience to keep on engaging this board, the MTS board, and also the SANDAG board. That concludes my questions and comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Moreno. Vice Chair Goebel.
Thank you, Chair. As I think about the project in total, really an airport connection is we're building something for travelers. And whether those travelers live in San Diego or whether they're coming from out of town to the convention center or other tourist destinations, I'm kind of picturing luggage too as part of, and kids in this thing. So I'm sensitive to how easy this solution would be for people with luggage, because that really is what an airport connection is all about. The second thing, I agree, a more robust system. My thoughts are they should integrate with the existing MTS trolley system. That makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to have an elevated track that runs over a trolley running at the same time. I think that doesn't reach. I'm having trouble with the capital spending of something that runs at the same time. So I think it should integrate. By integrating into the existing MTS system, I think our new trains are at floor level. You don't have to go up steps, which makes the luggage situation solve to get on a trolley. I think it also would boost, a trolley connection would boost regional trolley traffic. People from the East County, people from North County, people from South County are looking for an integrative way to say, I'll take it from El Cajon, I'll take it from Chula Vista, I'll take it from UTC, because it's the same system and it makes everything easier for the rider if they pay one fare in a way that kind of does that. So I think it boosts our ridership and integrates for the customer better. I think we do need to consider a solution that integrates with tourist traffic from the convention center and the rental car center, whether that's the existing trolley going to another station. And finally, I think certainly the shortest solution, whatever it is the lowest cost. So those are some things that come to mind in terms of, and the visual impact. Certainly you have to consider that we've got a beautiful coastline, and we need to consider the impact on tourism and just the pictures of San Diego along the coastline. Certainly that environmental part of it should be considered as well if you're looking at elevations. Those are my 5 thoughts about what I think makes sense for our system here at MTS. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goebel. Member Hall.
So, other than speed, is there an advantage of having the people mover versus the trolley?
Well, I mean, obviously the 2 to 4 minute, between vehicles is really important for an airport traveler, but we talk about elevated versus, integrating with the existing trolley system. The trolley system is important. I mean, we want to create robust connections between that system and the airport, whether it's through an APM or a trolley. But, by separating the system, you free yourself from the constraints of the existing system. Anytime you're going to have an operational problem on the trolley, that's going to possibly affect the airport connection, reducing reliability. The trolley connection relies upon the existing main line, which already has, blue and green line trolleys on it already. We modeled 15-minute headways, which we thought was pretty aggressive, given the amount of rail traffic on that line already. I know there are plans to increase headways on the blue line to 7.5 minutes. That'll
And
add more.
they can do it to the
trolley depth.
airport too.
Well, what we found is that, right now gate downtime in the downtown area is already a concern. When you add 7.5-minute headways on blue line, gate downtime goes from 15 to 20, 25 minutes an hour where the gates are down. If you add a 15-minute service to the airport, those gates could be down 30, 35 minutes of every hour in operation. That's a concern. I think it warrants additional study in the environmental process, but that's an impact that a separate, separated grade system would help you avoid. And I do think that would be important to some people.
Well, our brand is the trolley.
Mhm.
And what you're saying to do is you want to change our brand, basically. As far as the luggage goes, I see that configured, you just configure it to handle luggage. I mean, if you have to, you just have an extra car that handles luggage with people there. So if they want to get on a people mover type thing, they're available to do it. But if they want to ride the trolley, I just see this being, if we stay with the trolley going to there, we can go to Liberty Station, possibly go down and even go into OB or somewhere like that. So it's possible that it just limits our ability to move the trolley. The biggest problem we have here is we can't get anywhere that we need to be. You can't go to the zoo, you can't go to a lot of places. And this is something that we need to start working on, is these little trips. They're talking about putting a shuttle from Santee to El Cajon. And that's fine for me. A lot of people don't like that, but I do, because the reality is it's the one you're bringing people in here. We need to do maybe a special shuttle just straight to, and by a shuttle, I mean a trolley or on that one. So we need to bring these things, and this may be all we can do from now on, is make just quick shots up here, up over there and over there. And that's something that we need to just look at, because the minute we get into putting people movers up and doing all these other things, we're spending double the amount that we need to, basically, is what you're telling me, for nothing. If I want to take the trolley, I'm going to take the trolley, period. If I'm going to take a car, I'm going to take a car. But so and the reality is 30 years from now, where are we going to be? And that's the key, is 30 years from now, you have to think about where you're going to be. It may be a quicker way back then. It may be entirely different, but we need to actually right now make it accessible for people to use. And that's the biggest problem. When I come in here, it takes an hour to get down here. Going back, it takes me an hour to go back. I can drive back in 30 minutes. And that's what we need to work on in these things. For me to get to the zoo, I can't do it. For me to get to Wild Animal Park, I can't do it. For me to get to Poway on the trolley, I can't do it. And that's what we need to start working on, is those kind of things, and not redesigning things that we don't need to redesign.
Thank you very much, Member Hall. Member Elo Rivera.
Thank you, Chair. Brian, thanks for the presentation. Obviously, I've had a chance to see this discussed at SANDAG as well. My primary comment here is I think that wearing my MTS board member hat, I think it would be useful in the future to provide information specifically in how whatever's being studied or proposed by SANDAG would directly benefit this system. I understand that there's a kind of a bigger picture here, but that's not our job here necessarily. Our job here is to look at for MTS and the ways that our communities can benefit from the mission of MTS. I don't actually necessarily think that what you all are presenting here is in conflict with MTS's mission. I don't know that it's mutually exclusive with increasing ridership. that you all are engineers. You all are doing, you know, the engineering you have the engineering expertise. You are doing the deep dive. But if it's not presented in that way, it's much more difficult for us to understand what the benefit is here at MTS in something like People Mover. So primarily my comments are about the feedback from that perspective. Accessibility can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. What I keep hearing SANDAG reference is the regularity with which a People Mover can run that a trolley cannot run. And that specific component is a primary, if not the most important factor in determining whether or not folks will take transit to the airport. Meaning the whole system won't benefit from a connection to the airport if there isn't some way to guarantee guarantee very regular connections to the airport. Again, without though understanding how the system as a whole benefits, I think it's difficult for us to understand why we would ever be supportive of something that could be viewed as diverting resources away from this system. So I don't know if that makes sense, Ryan, but you often hear my comments on this topic from a SANDAG board member perspective, which I think has a wider lens. I wanted to make sure I provided that as an MTS board member as well, because the mission here is pretty focused, and it's supposed to be.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, we're looking at trying to create a fast, reliable, efficient connection to the airport that serves, you know, a time-dependent air traveler and an employee trying to get into work. You know, we do believe that an APM system could very much serve, you know, the existing transit modes that MTS provides, and really, you know, enhance the ability of this system to reach new destinations. And you know, we're going to continue talking about that. And I think there's a lot of room to work together on this.
Thanks, Ryan. The last thing I will say, I do appreciate the acknowledgement of the workers at the airport. They are far too often not included in the conversation when it comes to tourism generally in our region, and how important it is to ensure that they have a efficient, dignified way to get to and from work. So thank you for mentioning that. For me, knowing that whatever's being presented to us would be of substantial benefit to folks who live and work in San Diego, that's always going to take precedent to me over those who are simply, you know, visiting here. I appreciate them visiting, but I want to make sure that our residents are the primary beneficiaries of any investment that we make. Thanks, Brent.
Thank you very much, Member Elo Rivera. Member Gaston.
Thank you. There isn't much I can say that hasn't already been said, but I want to underline the value that we would get from the regularity, the reliability and regularity of those connections. The 9,000 people that work in the airport is a significant number of people, and anybody that we can get to take transit to the airport is a huge gain for the entire region. The underlying thing in my mind is to get people out of their cars and make transit more usable. And when it comes to either working at the airport or catching a plane at the airport or working in one of the businesses that surrounds the airport, the reliability is incredibly important, and the number of people that are affected is going to be really great. I think for the overall health of the transit system, this connection from downtown to the airport is going to be a huge benefit to the entire region. I noticed one of the speakers, Alex Wong, made this point that we want people to make a choice that is not Uber or their car, and it's very right now it's very challenging to get people to make that choice. But I think this study is taking us in the right direction, looking at a couple different options that can take us in that direction. We got to think big picture. You know, we got to treat San Diego like the international city that we are, and do a better job of being the international city that we are. And I want to thank you for the study and for the further studies, and encourage people, just think big picture and getting people out of their cars and making the system more reliable. That's really what we need to be working on. Oh, and as far as redundancy, you know what? Redundancy is not the worst thing. Sometimes redundancy is a way to make things more reliable and more certain. And but the worst redundancy I see is people getting in their cars to go to the airport when there should be reliable alternatives to go to the airport.
Thank you very much, Member Gastel. Mr. Cohat, thank you very much for taking the time to bring forward this presentation and sharing this information. And really appreciate that SANDAG is taking the lead at looking at possibilities for an airport transit connection. I think that at the end of the day, that's going to increase transit ridership. It's going to hopefully relieve some of the burden on our freeways, and is going to be a win for our communities. I will offer a couple of perspectives on some of what's been presented. From my perspective, I understand the value of 2 to 4 minute headways for an internal airport automated people mover, because you could have a plane that's running late, you've got a tight connection, and you've got tons of people all in the same place. So a 2 to 4 minute headway in that environment makes a lot of sense. So I could see that. Personally, I think a 2 to 4 minute headway versus, say, a 7.5 minute headway on a trolley is less important when you're talking about getting to the airport. I don't think most people cut their trip to the airport such that 2 to 4 minutes is going to make a difference versus 7.5 minutes. Most people try to leave themselves a little extra time. And if they can get on a trolley with a 7.5 minute headway, I think the vast majority of people are going to be in just as good shape as whether or not they get on an automated people mover with a 2 to 4 minute headway. So I question the premise that an external 2 to 4 minute headway provides really a lot of value over a 7.5 minute headway on a trolley. I think people will make plans to get to the airport when they need to get there. Given that, and given that the idea here is to provide a transit connection to the airport, one of the pieces of feedback we get from the community all the time is how important it is to make things easy for people. People want to be able to get to where they're going in the easiest, simplest, most convenient way. And to do that, I think there's a lot of value in keeping it on one system, so that somebody who gets on the trolley in another part in the South Bay, East County, even downtown, can get to the airport on one system without having to switch to an entirely different system to get to where they're going. And my third point is, as a city and a region, one of the things that San Diego prides itself on the most, and that we most benefit from, is our natural beauty. And we go to great lengths. We go to great lengths to protect our visual corridors along the bay and along the coast, so that all residents can enjoy the beauty of the city and the region in which we live. So I am a little surprised that we're studying an elevated concrete structure that close to the bay. I guess I will just ask one question, and that is, will visual impact be a part of the environmental study? I assume that it will be, but
Absolutely. And the CEQA, NEPA environmental processes demand that you look at impacts, including visual impacts. But the APM systems that are widely used globally in Asia, Europe, elsewhere here in the United States, they're very modern, much smaller, footprint systems than I think what you would see on Genesee Avenue with Midcoast, for example. Some of these systems, they're so quiet and small, they actually thread them through buildings, where it goes in one side of the building and out the other. I'm not saying what that is here, but that's exactly the kind of thing that we're going to be looking at in detail in the environmental process.
Thank you very much for that. As the council member for downtown, I'd rather not have APMs going through our downtown buildings, but we'll cross that bridge another day. Thank you very much again for the presentation. Thank you to everybody for providing public comment. We will go ahead and move on to our next agenda item then, and that is going to be item 20, and that is the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. And we will get this presentation from Aaron Dunn, along with Ken Poon and Coley Delaney of the Poon Group. Please feel free to settle in and begin when your presentation is ready. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Erin Dunn. I'm the controller here at MTS. Today I'm joined with Ken Poon from the Poon Group. Unfortunately, Coley was not able to attend this morning. We have recently wrapped up our financial audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. And we have issued our annual comprehensive financial report, which should be in front of you today. And today Ken is going to go through management's responsibilities, the firm's responsibilities, any findings, and highlight some key financial indicators.
Thank you, Erin. Good morning, Chair and member of the board. My name is Ken Poon. I'm the managing partner and also the technical partner on the MTS financial statement audit for the fiscal year end June 30, 2023. So as usual, I'm going to have a PowerPoint presentation to kind of walk you through the audit responsibility by both management and ourselves. I'll give you a 30,000-foot level on the overview of the financial statement, and then also pull out the most important part, pension and OPEB information. And last but not least is to deliver our audit results to you. So let's talk a little bit about the management responsibility. As management yourself, you are fully responsible for these financial statements by presenting these financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principle. The Governmental Accounting Standard Board is the standard setting bodies for state local government, which MTS is abided by. MTS is also required to design, implement, and maintain proper internal control to make sure that these financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect, whether due from fraud or errors. And also in preparing these financial statements, you also need to evaluate any event or condition that will raise substantial doubt about MTS' ability to continue as a going concern for the 12 months beyond the financial statement date, including any current known information that will raise substantial doubts shortly thereafter. As auditors ourselves, we are engaged to perform the audit, so we are here to express our opinion on whether these financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect in accordance with GAAP. We plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance, about whether these financial statements are free of material misstatement. We do consider internal control. However, we are not opining on the effectiveness on internal control. The sole purpose of those consideration is to design our audit procedures. And however, if we identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiency, we are also include in our presentation here, and then also in another report called AUC sections 265 internal controls matter, along with our audit to you. I also drag out a list of things that is highly that is in our new auditing standard statement 130, talking about our responsibility to. We are here also exercising professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout our audit. We identify the risk of material misstatement in these financial statements, whether due from fraud or errors, and design and perform our audit procedures. We are obtaining internal control, our understanding of the internal control for the purpose of the designing of the audit procedures, but not on the opining on the effectiveness of the internal control. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policy and procedures being adopted by the MTS, and make sure that they also making sure that your accounting estimates are reasonable presenting in these financial statement. And last but not least, we conclude whether in our judgment, there are any condition or event that may raise substantial doubt about MTS ability to continue as a going concern. So overview of the financial statement, the first couple slides showing you that because of an implementation of a GASB standard, but also we do have a corrections of error on the previous reported capital contribution. We do actually make some adjustment to the beginning net position. So a couple of the things, GASB statement 96 is relating to the subscription-based IT arrangement. It's very similar to what you had last year on lease accounting, also required you to book a right of use intangible asset on the subscription-based IT arrangement, and then also an associate liability. The amount to your financial statement netted between the asset and liability is very, very immaterial, is about like $26,000. However, we do actually have one capital contribution adjustment in the amount of $11.4 million relating to capital contribution. That was also written off and of $11 million. So restating your beginning net position to 3.48 billion to start off with. So also there's the slides talking about okay. So now it's getting into the actual financial statement. This slide is with the GASB statement number 84 adopted a couple years ago. You have like two set of financial statement in these in the act for now. So the first set of the financial statement is dealing with the consolidated level of MTS, SDTI, SDTC, and other contracted service. So this is what we call the primary government. So at the end of the day, June 30, 2023, the MTS closed it with a total net position of $3.4845 billion of total net position compared to last year, 3.48. It drops about like a 24.3 million dollars in total of net position. So one of the things what you can see in the income statement, total operating revenue $87 million, and then also including your non-operating revenue $477 million. So total revenue $564.8 million. Total expenses $587 million. So resulting a income before the loss before the capital contribution of $22.9 million. So this year, the capital contribution was only a contribution to outside to another agency of $1.3 million. So therefore, the change in net position of $24.3 million. When we convert everything to cash basis from an accrual basis, so cash flow from operating activities, $272 million outflow, and then cash flows from non-capital financing activities, including all the grants, subsidy that you got, $466 million. Cash flows from capital and related financing activities, the cash outflow for the capital, $73 million, and then cash flows from investing activities relating to your investment, $3.1 million. So total net cash increase, $123 million. So the second set of the financial statement, because of the GASB statement number 84 on fiduciary activities, we are required to pull the SDTC standalone pension plan information included in these financial statement. Total asset, $184 million, net of the liability, $859,000, totaling of $183 million net position to fund your net pension liability for the SDTC standalone retirement plan. So during the current fiscal year, total contribution from SDTC $17.8 million. So there is a net investment in income of $11.4 million increase. So total addition to your asset was $29.2 million. Distribution to retiree, $22.6 million. Net of the also with the administrative expense of $354,000. Total deduction from the asset was $22.9 million. But still, you do have a surplus, the change in fiduciary net position of $6.3 million increase to your net position for the fiscal year end 2023. So some key pension and OPEB information. You do have like 4 plans. MTS, SDTI, both a participant to CalPERS. SDTC, you have a standalone plan, and then also SDTI have a PARS plan too. Total net pension liability totaling $226 million reported on as a liability on the face of your financial statement. Keep that in mind. These numbers are purely an estimate. So therefore, the GASB require us to also present in the report a sensitivity analysis. What if the discount rate changed by 1%? So therefore, if the discount rate dropped by 1%, your liability can go up to $303 million. But if the discount rate increased by 1%, the net pension liability will drop it to $162.8 million. Total pension expense recognized during the year, $34.4 million. Compared to last year, you only have like $18.9 million. Looking at the OPEB liability, it's one consolidated plan, but it's actually allocated to the 3 different entities. So the aggregate liability was $42.6 million, really similar to pension. You do have the sensitivity based on the discount rate change. If the discount rate dropped by 1%, $49.7 million as a liability. And then if the discount rate increased by 1%, the liability can drop it to $36.8 million. So total net OPEB, like the OPEB expense recognized on your face of your financial statement, on your in the income statement, $2.5 million this year. The audit results, we issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can issue for any entity that we audited, which state that the financial statement are fairly presented in all material respect. Significant accounting policy have been consistently applied. The estimates are reasonable, and the disclosure are properly reflected in these financial statements. We do not have any disagreement with management in terms of accounting treatment. There's no material weaknesses or significant deficiency in internal control were noted or reported, and no accounting issue were noted. So that's conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
SANDAG said MTS's fare box recovery was 21%, but the MTS audit said it's actually about 19.6%, even worse. You know, you can ask the 20-year-old who got hit with a bottle while in the trolley. He said he's done. If you guys want a higher recovery rate, start being as accountable for safety and other needs of riders as you were accountable with the internal controls. Even the MTS mission statement says nothing about trying to ensure safety of riders or even trying to improve the efficiency of the system. So that survey that Red Hill Group was complete made-up garbage. There's literally no way in public transit, heck, that there's an overall satisfaction rate of 91%. You want satisfaction? I've stepped on the trolleys many times where half the car was covered in food and liquids strewn everywhere, even vomit on the windows. Quit wasting limited resources of transit security at one stop and leaving all riders in the rest of the county vulnerable to crime on the trolleys.
Your time has expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. We will now open board discussion on this item, and we will begin with Vice Chair Goebel, who will ask a series of prepared questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Poon. Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for your work on this. It's a big lift and a big organization. Kudos to Ms. Cooney, Mr. Maronese, and your team to get completed and audited statements 4 months after the end of the fiscal year is remarkable.
Thank you.
So I have a series of questions to ask you. These questions are really for the public's benefit in terms of transparency and accuracy, integrity. All righty. So I've got 9 questions for you.
Okay.
During the audit, were you giving full access to any and every employee that you needed to talk to for the purposes of preparing the audit?
Yes.
Did you ever ask for access to an employee that you felt necessary to complete your audit and were denied access to that employee?
No,
Were you given full access to any documents, including ledgers and financial statements and financial documents for the purposes of preparing your audit?
yes.
Thank you. Did you ever ask for any documents, ledgers, or any financial documents from staff or executives that were refused to be provided to you?
No,
Thank you. Did you find any financial practices being used by staff or executives to not be consistent with the best practices of accounting?
no, we are not aware.
Thank you. Is it your opinion that this audit and MTS's financial record keeping deserves an unmodified opinion?
Yes.
Thank you. What is the alternative to an unmodified opinion?
Well, there are a couple options. We are if we are not be able to issue an unmodified opinion, it's either a qualified opinion, adverse opinion, or disclaimer of an opinion. So this is the worst, and fortunately, we are able to confirm that MTS deserve a unmodified opinions. That means that the financial reporting is all in accordance with GAAP.
Wonderful, thank you. How many years has your company been conducting finance audits for MTS?
Well, between my firm and the previous firm that I worked for, it's about like 18, 19 years.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever found an MTS audit that you did not ultimately conclude that it would be an unmodified opinion?
No.
Okay, thank you for your answers.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goebel. Any further board discussion on this item? Seeing none, the recommended action for this item is to receive the report.
I'll move to receive the report.
And I will second that. We have a motion and second to receive the report. Seeing no further board discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for the presentation.
If I could, Chair, I did want to recognize that Erin Dunn and her team, Jennifer Pentoni and Craig Ocker, they achieved their 17th in a row achievement of financial reporting from the GFOA for their excellent work in audit.
That is excellent work. Congratulations and thank you. Very good. Item 21 is the fiscal year 2023 final operating budget results. We will invite Gordon Meyer to provide us with this presentation. Once you get settled in and you're ready, please go ahead and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Gordon Meyer. I'm the manager of financial planning here at MTS. And this morning, I'm going to provide the final update for the FY23 operating budget results for the fiscal year that just ended in June of 2023. So first we'll take a look at the operating revenues. So on the first line, we have fair revenue. So here for the year, we ended unfavorable to budget by 3.4 million or 4.7%. Although we were unfavorable to budget, we were favorable over the prior year by 11.3 million or up 20.2%. Ridership year over year was favorable by 10.9 million passengers or up 18.9%. And of that 3.4 million favorable variance, we estimate that about 1.4 million of that was due to the strike and the reduced service levels in May and June. Next line, we have other operating revenue. So here we finished the year favorable a little over 2 million or 9.4%. And that was all in favorable interest revenue. Last year we had interest rates continue to climb, and then we also had really high cash balances with the different grants and stimulus funds that we have flowing through our cash balances. So moving on to expenses, so personnel costs, we finished the year unfavorable to budget by 1.2 million or 0.7%. That was mostly within bus operations, specifically unfavorable healthcare costs as well as workers' compensation. For healthcare, we dissolved the ATU and IBEW trusts the year before, and so we were working with estimates on what that would cost transitions to the typical employer-sponsored healthcare plan, and so we missed some of those estimates, and that was really what drove that. And then on the workers' compensation side, we had some really expensive claims that should be wrapping up soon. Next line, we have purchase transportation. So that's our first transit and our TransDev contracts. So we finished the year favorable here by 7.2 million or 7.9%. It was a combination of both our fixed route service as well as paratransit. And we estimate that about 5 million of that 7.2 million favorable variance was actually due to the strike. And once again, the reduced service levels in May and June. So it would have been a lot closer without that. On next line, we have other outside services. So here we finished favorable to budget by 2.3 million or 5.5%. That was due to some large ticket maintenance and construction projects where it was really an issue of timing. We ended up missing budget because some of the projects were delayed. Specifically in our MOW and track department, we had some large ticket items that pushed into this fiscal year. Same thing in bus. We had some facility maintenance projects that some of the expenses are occurring in this fiscal year, but resulted in a favorable variance last year. And then lastly, we had within marketing, we had a $450,000 sign project where the project got off to a good start on schedule, but the signs weren't delivered until this fiscal year. So we had a favorable variance last fiscal year. Next line, we have energy. So here we finished very close to budget overall, 19,000 unfavorable. Within that, we had unfavorable electricity costs due to the rates coming in about 4.5% higher than what we had budgeted, but that was mostly offset by favorable CNG costs and related to volumes, once again, related to the strike. Last line, we have other expenses were favorable 240,000 or 0.7%. And that was some kind of miscellaneous general and administrative expenses. So bottom line for expenses, we were favorable by 8.5 million or 2.2% for the year. So when we look at the operating activities combined, we had a favorable net income of 7.2 million or 2.5%. And of that 7.2 million, we estimate that about 4 million was because of the strike. So we've looked at the operating activities. So the other piece of our overall operating budget is the non-operating activities, which primarily includes subsidy revenue. And so before we look at those numbers, I'm going to give a really quick overview of what those categories are. So federal revenues, that's our recurring FTA funds for preventive maintenance and rural operations. So if you hear terms like Section 5307, 5337, that's our recurring formula funds. Stimulus funds, that's our FTA CARES Act and ARP Act funds. In total, we've received 360 million. We've drawn 228 million of that through June 30th of 2023 and had 132 million remaining. TDA, that's the 1/4% regional sales tax in the region. It's administered by SANDAG in the county. That one, we submit a claim every year, so we know what we're going to get. So we don't usually have a large variance there. Transnet, that's the 1/2 cent sales tax in the county to fund transportation projects specifically. MTS receives both a formula share every year as well as direct reimbursement for Transnet services, which includes Midcoast and our BRT services. STA is the diesel fuel sales tax, which is distributed based on a formula based on population and agency revenue. And then lastly, we have a category for other, which includes some smaller ancillary revenue agreements that are listed below. So that brings us to this slide, which combines our operating and non-operating activities together. And you can see the red line is our net deficit or structural deficit. And so we finished the year with a 29.6 million structural deficit versus a budgeted structural deficit of 37 million. So we did come in favorable on that front. When you include our stimulus funding that was actually used to balance the budget, then you can see on the bottom line, we ended the year with a favorable revenues over expenses of 7.4 million. And so that is the number that we need to program and what the ultimate recommendation will be for. But before we get to that, just a reminder that the board policy for our contingency reserve is to set the target at 12.5% of the operating expense budget. So for FY 24, based on our operating expenses in the budget, we are projecting a target, or we have a target of 45 million. On the prior slide, we just saw that we have 7.4 million in excess revenues over expenses. After adjusting for about 330K in interest that gets allocated out, leaves us with about 7 million that actually needs to get allocated. And so staff is proposing that we allocate 3.1 million to the MTS contingency reserve, which would put us exactly at our 12.5% target for FY 24, and then allocate the remaining 3.9 to the newly created operating deficit reserve for addressing structural deficits. Look, I skipped a slide. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So this is our non-operating activities, which includes our subsidy revenue. So federal recurring revenue came in favorable by about 270,000. We were able to draw more rural operations funding based on our eligible expenses. On the stimulus funds, we were able to draw about 3 million more than we had in the budget. And if you remember back to the mid-year adjustment last year in March, the board also approved a strategy to shift our strategy from drawing our stimulus funds from drawing based on our structural deficit need only, and we instead shifted to drawing the maximum amount of expenditures that we could draw based on the FTA rules. And so we were able to draw more funds based on our expenses, and you can see that was offset on the reserves line below with a higher contribution to reserves. So overall, the non-operating revenues came in favorable, 221,000. Debt service expenses, which are also non-operating activities, were favorable by 24,000. And then overall, the non-operating activities were favorable, 245,000. Already covered this slide. So yeah, I'm just going to skip to the recommendation that the board of directors approve the allocation of excess revenues over expenses in FY 23 to the following: 3.1 million to the MTS contingency reserve to achieve our 12.5% target, and 3.9 million to the newly created operating deficit reserve for addressing structural deficits. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
You know, I wasn't going to speak to this item at all, but when time gets reduced to 60 seconds, I readjust my plans for the dictators in charge. 4.7% unfavorable fare recovery. Why is that? Fix your broken system. And that's a double meaning. Fix the inefficient, unreliable, and unsafe public transit, and then fix this broken board. Increased healthcare costs. Unspent IBEW. You know, I think I could just ask Corey and crew about that, see what she has to say. And then there were strikes. You guys want me to mention bathrooms? No one's talking about that today. And he said claims wrapping up soon. No, they're not. You're scheduled for at least 2 more expensive ones coming. And that energy costs are going to skyrocket the more you move towards electric. In fact, I could see more claims regarding lithium battery explosions in the future. You guys are able to do well on admin costs. Does that mean the paper pushers and the keyboard clickers are not going to get paid well, or that their jobs are going to get cut? You
Your
exceeded
time has
expenses, and
expired.
that's good.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. We will now open board discussion on this item, and we will begin with Member Gaston.
Yeah, I was hoping you could comment a little bit on the 12.5% target. Some of us have served on city councils that have a certain, target, and school boards that have a certain target. And it's very different. The percentage that we think is very important depends a lot on the jurisdiction. And I was wondering if you could comment a little bit on why 12.5%. If we had a lower target, then we could put more toward addressing the structural deficits. But, I mean, I see $7 million there, and I think we've got some generally good ideas, you know, prudent ideas, but maybe you could comment a little bit on the 12.5% and why that's the right figure.
Thank you for your comment. Larry Marinizzi, Chief Financial Officer here at MTS. We had extensive conversations with this with the board a number of years ago, and we felt that at that point, I think it was 10%. And the board, from a fiduciary standpoint, from a conservative standpoint, decided to increase that to 12.5%. I think that gets us into the mid $30 million range. And what we do is we also have some funding through Transnet that funds certain things. So those are excluded from the calculation. And at that point, from a conservative standpoint, we felt that 12.5% at that time made sense. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Member Gastel. Any further discussion on this item? All right, the motion or the recommendation in front of us is on the screen on how to allocate those funds. I will entertain a motion to adopt the staff recommendation and receive the report if there is one. Vice Chair Goebel.
Move to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
And okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair Goebel, a second from Member Hall. Clerk, let's take a roll call vote on this, please.
Chavez,
Yes.
McCann is absent. Donovan,
Yes.
Vargas is absent. Goebel,
Yes.
Aguirre,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Gastel,
Yes.
Rodriguez is absent. Frank,
Yes.
Montgomery Stepp,
Yes.
Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Moreno,
Moreno, yes.
Whitburn,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
The motion passes with 12 members voting yes and 3 members absent.
Thank you, Clerk. All right, we'll move on to item number 22, and that is an MTS support services overview. And Amanda Denham will provide the presentation. Please feel free to begin when you're ready to go.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. My name is Amanda Denham, and I'm the Director of Support Services. I've been with the agency for about 10 years. And during that time, we've really put a strong emphasis on improving the availability, the consistency, and the quality of information that our customers have when they're using our service. So this morning, I'm going to be taking you through what support services is, the different services we offer to our customers, and how those departments work collaboratively with the rest of MTS. So what is support services? Support services is 6 different departments within MTS that all provide reliable, consistent, efficient, and high-quality service levels to enhance riders' experience using our system. We are made up of 3 distinct call centers who help our customers with specified functions. We have the customer service team, the information and chip planning team, the Pronto Support Center, as well as our in-person retail outlet, which is here on the first floor of the Mills building. We also have a team of passenger support representatives that work throughout our system to help support special events, as well as everyday station coverage. They work closely with our security team, but are not security. They are there to support the passenger, easily navigate our system, purchase their fares, and wayfind through our system. And lastly, we have a ride check program, an anonymous team who goes out and evaluates our system for us. The customer service team receives all of our customer feedback for anything about our system, whether it's contracted service, trolley, bus, station, security. This one team receives all that feedback. They do so through a combination of means, first and foremost being the inbound call center. They also receive feedback through an online feedback form, voicemails, emails, live chat, social media, you name it, we want to be available to our riders, and we hear from our riders on a very regular basis. When we hear from our riders, we're diligent in making sure we create documented cases for each of their feedback. On average, that feedback ranges between 800 and 1,200 cases per month, and those cases are each assigned out to the appropriate department so they can be investigated and the feedback processed. Each department receives cases relevant to their own operations, and they're responsible for conducting thorough investigations and documenting those investigations and returning the cases back to customer service. The customer service team follows back up with the customers if that's requested, and all cases are logged based on the content that was reported by the customer. On average, the cases are closed within 7 business days. And important to note that all those investigations are conducted using a variety of tools, whether it be onboard video, GPS, interviews with employees. We want to make sure those investigations are thorough and allow our customers a clear understanding of what we did to address their concerns. The customer service call center is the smallest of the three. They do receive about 2,600 calls per month. And on average, the wait time is 17 seconds, with less than 3% of our callers needing to disconnect before we can help them. All the calls are recorded, and we have staff within all three call centers that are bilingual. The information and trip planning team is our largest call center. This is a team that's made up of ATU, so the same union as our in-house bus operators. This is the office employee segment of that contract. And they provide personalized trip planning for MTS riders of all modes, whether they're using the bus, the trolley, or just trying to navigate how the different stations work together. They also help our riders find their lost and found items by working with an integrated system that connects to a messaging system on board with the bus drivers. They have access to all of our detours, our real-time information, and they work with our marketing and operations teams to keep that information as current as possible. Overall, they're there to provide customers who may be brand new to our system, visiting San Diego for the first time, an overall picture on how to use MTS. As I said, it is the largest, and they do receive about 20,000 inbound calls per month. In this department, we also maintain an average wait time less than 20 seconds and a abandonment of less than 3%. The graphs that I'm showing are showing the entirety of FY23 as well as the first quarter of FY24, and you will notice the big spike in the May and June timeframes, especially with the information trip planning team. That is where we felt the most notable impacts of the work stoppage. You can see the wait times and abandonments this year have been much lower. And we think with a department like information trip planning, that's extremely important due to the real-time sensitive nature of the request that most people are calling for. They need to know where the bus is, when it's going to be there, and how to catch their next trip. The Pronto Support Center is likely the one you're most familiar with. This is the call center that supports the entire region's fare collection system. So we do take all calls for North County Transit as well as MTS riders utilizing the Pronto system. This system, or this support center, not only takes inbound calls, but they also process a variety of fulfillment functions for our customers. So they support all of the account registrations, account conversions for our SDM and youth riders. They manage a full caseload of help cases that are presented through the Pronto website, averaging about 750 cases a month. They process the online orders that come through both for Pronto and for MTS Access books. And average fill anywhere from $7,000 to $32,000 a month worth of tickets and other product sales. And lastly, we work as partners for all of the institutional programs that offer Pronto to either their employers or their students through their Pronto Partners and Partners Plus program, which has grown to be about 120 accounts, including programs like the UCSD UPass, which serves the entire student body of UCSD, as well as the City of San Diego's recent UPass that was deployed to over 10,000 City of San Diego employees. Pronto does receive an average about 10,000 calls per month, and I want to thank you very much for the recently approved staffing increases that you approved to allow us to help better handle the calls that are coming into the Pronto Support Center. As you can see, the wait times and the call abandonment rates are significantly higher than the other two call centers due to the nature of the changes in Pronto and the customer's adoption to the new fare system. We've recently added new positions to the department, and you can already see the impacts that we're feeling from the data from September and October of FY24. The way that the Pronto system works, as you're well familiar, is very different from Compass, whereas in the past, if a customer called in and needed help with the Compass system, the agents could help them on the phone, but nothing that they did would be real time. So it wasn't very beneficial to a rider to call to get the service. They were better off going to a ticket vending machine or going to a store. In Pronto, everything is real time, so they do have the ability to call us in real time. The agents can convert an account. In real time, they can top off their account, and in real time, they can get a pass loaded. So there is value in still having that human connection, and so the Pronto Support Center has been able to offer that to our riders. The MTS Transit Store is our other ATU office employee segment. They're located, as I said, here on the first floor, and they provide in-person support for any Pronto card pass purchases. They issue the photo Pronto cards for those who want the photo printed on the card. They verify eligibility for reduced fares, so we can make sure those who are truly eligible for the discounted fares are those who are receiving them. They also offer the lost and found pickup for anything lost that's on our directly operated bus service and our trolley system. On average, there's over 6,000 items a year that are processed at our transit store, and that again is only 2 operating divisions for bus and our trolley. We do have the other facilities of bus that offer lost and found pickup for their own locations at the South Bay and the East County. The transit store also offers organizational support for day pass purchases. So a lot of our social service groups purchase individual passes to give to their clients on a daily basis. And those are a combination of what are purchased at the store as well as through the Pronto Sports Center. We offer retail sales, so anyone looking to get a new onesie or a new t-shirt, maybe some MTS socks, all of those merchandise is also sold at the transit store. The transit store also has a very cyclical nature to the business. This is one sample graph from just last month, and you can see on the left and on the right are the first and the last day of the month. We see peak sales transaction counts on the first and the end of the month. Although our fare system allows for capping and money to be added anytime throughout the month, and the best fare will make sure you're not charged anymore, many of our riders are still opting to load their cards or their passes on the first or near the first of the month. And so you see close to 500 transactions on the days that are the first and the last of the month, whereas the mid-month transaction counts may be lower, closer to the 100 range. The transit store does generate almost $200,000 a year, or $200,000 a month in sales as well. Another very familiar team that you may have seen if you've ridden our system, which I know many of you have, is our passenger support team. So this is our team of part-time employees who help with in-person assistance throughout the system. They're helping navigate how to load fares, navigate which vehicles to get on. If there's a detour, they're helping riders understand the impacts that those detours may have. In addition to special event support, which we did more than 175 events last year, they're there on a daily basis at many of our busiest stations to help our riders navigate. The passenger support team is also there for both the planned and the unplanned. So while we can plan for the Padres to make the playoffs, the unplanned may happen as well. An elevator may be out of service, and that team is there to get directly to the stations that are impacted and help riders understand the impacts. So on this slide is just a few pictures highlighting some of our passenger support teams. We've made several updates to the team in the way that they function in the past fiscal year. We've updated their uniforms. We've provided different tools to make them more visible and more accessible to the riders. For example, the colored flags during special events to know which line they are, which Edna's showing in the first slide. Our supervisor, Victor Murillo, came up with the concept during Big Bay Boom this year to add light sticks to the team. So again, they could just more easily direct the large crowd that's exiting. And of course, being integrated into central control, which you can see Eric there in the central control room. At the end of peak events such as Petco, we now have a passenger support rep in central control, controlling the visual messaging signs and making announcements at the station to more real time allow riders to know what's happening with the service when it's not operating on a regular schedule. And lastly, we have the ride check program. So this is kind of our secret shopper program. These riders are MTS employees who discreetly observe the system and report what they've seen through an electronic template. They do a combination of both random rides throughout the system as well as directed, meaning we're using the data that we've collected through our customer feedback and other operations observations, and we're having them go look at certain drivers to make sure that behaviors have been corrected or if there's opportunities that need to be further explored. They perform ride checks on both our in-house drivers as well as our contracted drivers. And again, their candid observations are meant to be from the rider's perspective for each and every trip. Our ride check program is also really notorious for observing the often unreported positive interactions with drivers and our customers. So to pull all this together within support services, we are very data driven. We collect a lot of information through each of the systems. We have a dedicated analyst, Dominic, who is part of our customer service team as well. And he prepares ongoing and regular dynamic reports to look at all the different areas of not just support services, so our call trends and our call monitoring, but also our customer feedback. Looking really strategically at each of the things that our customers report to us, comparing it across different operating divisions, different months, different years, and making sure that we're being strategic in the way that we use that data to address our operations. We have a team of cross-departmental employees that meet at least monthly to go through all of this data. So we have team members from bus operations, from training, from contract services, from safety, from maintenance that all get in a room and go through at a driver level, a stop level, a route level to really understand how our system's performing from the eyes of the customer. And I will add that at least 10% of our cases each month tend to be compliments. Support services also works very closely with all departments of MTS. We want to keep the customer experience as an integral part of how we make decisions at MTS. We work obviously closely with the fare systems team and administration team, the trolley team, when it comes to designing products for different events, looking at how we're going to staff different events. We partner with marketing to make sure the promotions that they're putting forward are ones that we can understand and help support customers to understand too. We work with our security team, our legal team to, again, records requests, customer perspectives of safety. We work with operations, with maintenance, all the different departments. You name it, odds are support services either is at the table helping make a decision or has someone who's been in the support services team before. And so all this is possible because of the dedicated team we have within support services. I'm proud to say my team in passengers in support services has more than 540 years of MTS experience. And for context, we have less than 80 people on my team. So you could do the math. It's a very dedicated team ranging from 1 month of service to 34 years. You know, a couple highlights at the bottom. You have Eric, who's in our trip planning department, who also worked in our partners team, receiving an award at our recent Services Safety Award. We have our transit store team in the picture inside of the store. We have our customer service team, 2 of those supervisors, both Belinda and Maria, whom have over 30 years of service experience with MTS. And then on the right, we have our superheroes of Pronto. You can see our team takes great pride in what they do. One even dressed up as a Pronto card for Halloween. So I'm very proud of my team and the work that they do. I'm also proud to say that many of our team members have been promoted into other positions within MTS. We have former recovering support services employees in every department, whether it be trolley, contract services, IT, finance, marketing. And I like to think that every time one of my team members is promoted into another area, it's one more area that we've invested the customer experience as a primary way that we make a decision here. So we're not just here for the customers when they call and go directly to support services, we're throughout the agency to make sure that perspective isn't lost. And so with that, I put on the screen one of the ways that we make sure customers know how to find us. This is a sample of the rider assistance card that every operating graduating class from our operations team is provided. They can get them at dispatch. They can get them through security. Our passenger support team has them to hand out their business card size. They give our riders those direct contact numbers for each of the call centers, so we are available to help them when they need the different services. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Denham. Thank you for taking the time to put that together and share that presentation. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. We have 2. David Roger, please make your way to the podium. Okay, we will move on to phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
The creepy secret riders in the ride check program should be providing accurate info on improvements that MTS actually does. Yet where's the improvements in cleanliness at night? Where's the transit security presence on every car possible and required at every station? For information and trip planning, it's another unsatisfactory MTS operation. I actually think I could be an MTS ambassador just because I keep helping lost people. I recently helped a young woman who had journeyed from Mexico. She was looking at an MTS map that was outdated and without details. It was totally useless, so I gave her directions from Google Maps. People should easily know how to get to where they're going, but they don't because even the internal trolley station signs and announcements are often inaccurate. I recommend signs at every station and bus stop to inform people of the numbers for security, information, lost and found, and trip planning. And if you guys don't remedy these issues, people are going to ask me about MTS, and there's no way you guys want me to be a spokesperson because I'm going to say MTS fears public comment and reps no-show the meetings with presentations longer
Your time
than
has
60 seconds.
expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. We will now open board discussion on this item, beginning with Vice Chair Goebel.
Thank you, Chair. It's a great comprehensive operation that you're running. It's, if I divide 540 by 80, it's an average of 6 or so if I did my math correctly, which is good to know that if I'm on the budget committee, I'm semi-good at math. I think also what you do integrates well with the maintenance crew, both at night and during the day. The public would be well served to know that each of our buses and trolleys are cleaned internally at night every day. And during the day, we have crews at the trolley stations to pick up unusual things. And we have bus operators who will kind of maintain their own buses in a sense. So your holistic approach is really good for the public is what I'm trying to say. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goebel. Member Aguirre.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciated the photos, seeing all the smiling faces of our staff. It's always good to have that reminder, see how much they enjoy their work. I have a question as far as the ride check program. You said that usually, you send out the, I guess ambassadors and take the information and bring it back for operational review and appropriate action. But are there ever any cases where there's maybe general suggestions, and how can the board learn those? I mean, I'm seeing almost an opportunity maybe for us to have that once a year at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So the data that we receive from the ride check program is in a set form that is processed through the customer service team, it's independent from the customer feedback. So that feedback is given to operations on a regular report. It certainly is summarized. We look for key findings. The ride checkers are there again to be the customer perspective. They don't know why we're asking them to ride check with a particular operator. They just get a list. They get it every month of which routes those drivers are on. And then over the course of the month, they conduct the rides. So they may do them in the morning, they may do them at night. That is all compiled back through support services, and it's looked at in conjunction with what we see through the customer feedback. The customer feedback, it all comes through the SAP CRM system. So it's very detailed in terms of which departments, which routes, and what are the reasons for the feedback. So we have specific codes that we look to, for example, pass ups. If someone calls and reports that a driver passed them up, that's documented as a pass up. Operations investigates, and then it's brought back to us. And that's the data that we're really diving into. So it's a combination of both what the passengers are reporting as well as the ride checks. And certainly that data is available, and we can certainly explore ways to make it more readily available for you as a board, if that's something you're interested in.
I think so. And I can see it being a ground truthing almost cross-check system. But I think in general, just if they were to see something, a suggestion or something more general that it doesn't fit within these parameters that you're mentioning, I think it would be good for us to learn that. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any further board discussion? I see Member Chavez.
Thank you so much, first of all, and everyone that's been involved in offering great customer service. 17 seconds in average wait time is outstanding. Congratulations for that. A few years back, that was one of my main concerns, because we used to listen to constituents calling us and being a little frustrated on not getting a quick response. But I really, really, really want to congratulate you for that. And I was just going to ask you, because I'm on the security committee, do you have data of everything you're collecting in customer service, specifically in public security?
We do. So security is one of the departments that we collect feedback for. All those cases are assigned to the security division. They do their investigations and it's returned to us. But the way in which our SAP system sorts the data, we absolutely can quantify it based on an individual department, an individual operator or security member.
I would love to have access to that data and see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chavez. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Denham, to you, to your team, to your recovering team members, as you put it, and to all of the MTS leadership in this room for everything that you do to enhance the customer experience. Very much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Item 23 is the fiscal year 2023 annual performance monitoring and operating reports. This is going to be a team presentation for us this morning, and we'll let the team settle in, and please feel free to begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Board. Dennis Desmond, Director of Planning and Scheduling. I'm joined today by Mike Wygant, Chief Operating Officer for Bus, and Brian Riley will follow Mike, Chief Operating Officer for Rail. I will start talking about data, and I'd like to acknowledge Naomi Woods. She's our Senior Data Analyst. She's sitting right behind us here. She is the brains behind this report, so much appreciation to her for all of her work here. Our Board Policy 42 asks that we look at 20 different metrics for our services each year and bring those back to the report, to the board. There's an attachment to your board report that includes the report on all of these 20 metrics, many of them by route data. I'd like for my presentation today to focus on ridership. So looking at total passengers for fiscal year 2023, we had 68.5 million riders. That was a 19% increase over the prior year. And as you can see, as you look at the system totals for FY 21, 22, and 23, we see a lot of rebound from the pandemic. So really, really impressive to see how we've grown year to year. And this actually continues. If you look at FY 24 data, we're still running about 10% above FY 23. Our average weekday ridership for FY '23 was 215,000. We actually had a low in April of 2020 of less than 70,000. So we're back up to 215,000. And I'm happy to report that we're actually exceeding 260,000 in October. So nice, impressive growth continuing. This table on the screen or chart on the screen shows that just in a graphic format. You can see the trend line in green there is increasing. We did have a dip in May and June of 2023 due to the operator strikes at 2 of our bus divisions. And looking at the same data on a monthly ridership, FY '20 was a high for us. Those are the red bars that were way up at the top until March of 2020 when that dropped down to the bottom. And again, you can see April, we dropped 70% of our ridership, and we've been growing back since then. So FY '23 is the orange bars, and you can see how those are making their way back up to where we were in FY '19. One of our really important performance metrics is passengers per revenue hour. So this is the number of passengers per hour of service that we put out on the street. This table here breaks that down by different modes. And of course, there's some variation in the mode. Urban frequent tends to be one of our best. Rapid is also our best bus mode. And then of course, the light rail is the highest, over 150 passengers per hour. What we look for in this metric is year to year growth, and we do see that. In fact, we had over 25% growth from FY '22 to FY '23. So overall, we're working our way back to where we were in the pre-pandemic days. I'd like to focus just on this slide for the Midcoast. We're approaching the 2-year mark for the anniversary of the opening of the Midcoast segment, November 21st of 2021. And so I wanted to look at the ridership, not only of just the blue line, but of actually the entire corridor, all of the routes that were impacted, and see how those are doing compared to the rest of our system. So at the bottom, there's a calculation of how much of the baseline ridership has been recovered. And when you look at all of the mid-coast routes, on a weekday basis, we're actually 14% over our pre-pandemic baseline, compared to 93% for our system-wide. So the mid-coast routes are actually outperforming the other system-wide routes. And these are October 2023 numbers for the most current. Another really important metric for our riders is the on-time performance. We had a very unique period of on-time performance during the pandemic when we lost a lot of ridership and there was no traffic, and we hit over 90% on almost every single mode. Now, as traffic comes back and riders come back, these numbers are normalizing. So that's why you see some numbers going down, but every three times every year during our scheduling shakeups, we strive to adjust schedules to bring these numbers back up. And our fare box recovery, this is the amount of our costs that we recover through what passengers pay at the fare box. Similar to ridership, this has been improving. Of course, our costs, as Gordon talked about, have been going up substantially. So while we're getting close to the 20%, we were over 34% pre-pandemic. So there's still some room to grow here, but we were over 8% improved over FY '22 in the last year. And lastly, I wanted to mention the Youth Opportunity Pass. This is a pilot program that was launched in May of 2022. And actually, it says here it runs through 2023. SANDAG has actually voted to extend this for another 2 years. They are paying for the pilot with CMAQ, federal CMAQ money. And we have seen an improvement in youth ridership. So looking at 2 months pre-YOP, we were at about 8% total ridership was youth. And 1 year later, after the YOP, during the first year of the pilot, we were at about 14% youth ridership. Youth ridership doubled in that year. So we clearly see a nexus between the YOP and youth ridership improvement. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike Wygant.
Thanks, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. Again, Mike Wygant, Chief Operating Officer over the transit services here, the bus side of the house. We'll go over a few of the, our big projects over the year, some of our great performance numbers and that I'd like to highlight, and a couple of challenges. So first off, you know, the safety of our employees and the safety of our passengers is always our top priority. I would like to say COVID-19 is completely behind us, but occasionally it tends to spark up. So a lot of the measures that we've had in place continue to be in place for the protection of everyone. One of the big safety indicators that we have is our annual CHP or terminal inspections. That's a process in where the California Highway Patrol comes in and does a deep dive into our operations, everything from drug and alcohol testing and training to maintenance records. They do an audit of 20% of the vehicles where they physically go out and touch them and inspect them for compliance. We go back and look through our maintenance records to make sure that they're compliant with not only the federal carrier requirements, but with also the OEM requirements. So we've been through all those this year and had great results. Nothing's put out of service. You don't get an A or an F, you get a pass or a fail. So we're proud to get through that. One of the systems that we've been testing for a couple of years since COVID started, buses are a little bit challenging as it relates to fresh air and circulation. Trying to keep the HVAC at a level that's acceptable for everyone limits the amount of fresh air that you can bring in. And so a system that we started testing early on was newly developed with a lot of things with COVID. New things came out of the woodwork, was these new air purification systems. And we've been testing it for almost 2 years. And I'm happy to say that we've identified a system that we're comfortable with and has good results and is now a standard on all of our new vehicles from here on out. So hopefully we don't have another COVID outbreak of that level or some new undetermined outbreak. But when it comes to the particulates within the air inside the vehicles, we're much better prepared. Battery electric buses, we all are fully aware of that transition. Does have some challenges, obviously has some great advantages. One of them is to continue the safety of them and the potential of a thermal event. We have not had any. Happy to report we have a lot of systems on board the vehicles in our facilities to detect that if that were an issue. But we always prepare for the worst. So we've had to amend a lot of our training process for emergency drills as it relates to zero emission vehicles. Familiarity, you'll see it here in the picture with our local emergency responders, the fire department. We do that with all of our vehicles where they come out and they do some familiarity. Natural gas has some challenges, but specifically with the battery electric, we go things to show them how to isolate the facilities, how to deal with a potential thermal event. And then we even have our own employees do drills to prepare us in the event we were to have a situation like that. So a lot of focus in on that. Some of the safety highlights, preventable accidents, one of the huge KPIs that we look at, kind of grades us. We had the lowest preventable on our rapid in 6 years. Our fixed route and our access still remains what we call below the pre-COVID levels. COVID really created a lot of anomalies, as we're all aware, but with less passengers and higher average speeds and less traffic out on there, you know, a lot of the numbers really weren't, the baselines changed. So, but we're happy to report that we're performing better than we were at COVID or staying at an acceptable level. Another thing that we really focused in on is a risk reduction as far as assaults for our transit workers. It's been a bit of a challenge in the industry. A lot of you are aware that we put the barriers on the vehicles to look at that, but we really enhanced our tracking and our reporting and our training. We've had a lot of help with our security team. They have special details to try to help both proactively and reactively. We have monthly and quarterly meetings with the rank and file to really address the issues and see what we can do to improve on. Another thing that we've been piloting for quite a while, it's not approved by the Federal Motor Vehicle Carrier. They've actually used us as a test bed. It's becoming a common product in Europe. It might seem challenging to understand this, but taking the mirrors off the side of your vehicles. It's become a trend in Europe. The vehicles, you know, have 11 inches of mirror hanging on both sides. That's another thing to hit a tree, hit another vehicle, but also that mirror on the outside has some challenges for the operators, what we call A-pillar intrusions. Blockages, blind spots are all related as trying to look through your window at that mirror. So the thought process is to, as you can see in these pictures, to install mirrors on the inside of the vehicles that help with blind spots, do away with that A-pillar intrusion, and can even, you know, provide some early detection systems for like pedestrians or cyclists. So we're working with some OEMs and the federal government to try to go through a process to vet that out and test that, and maybe one day it'll be approved on our vehicles. Right now, as you can see in the picture, we cannot remove the mirror on the outside. So really, it's a pilot that MTS is supporting. Transit services, as we mentioned, it's come up a couple times today. We did have a labor dispute impacting us really at the end of quite a bit at the end of our last fiscal year. Between a couple of different, our facilities were impacted, both with the local, with the Teamsters, with the 683 and the 542. I don't really want to hash out all the bad stuff that happened, but we did have 34 or 37 days of labor disputes impacting our customers. And we worked really hard to get through that, but really to try to focus on improving the conditions, preventing it from happening, and then restoring the confidence with our customers. A lot of the internal focus is about the operators, improving the conditions. I know we've made some major changes to their CBAs. The board has committed in 2 different cases to help with the wage aspect of it. And the results is we are seeing increased class sizes and some improvements in the retentions. We're working on some other things to try to really help in the environment with the operators. A couple of capital projects with our capital team. Some of them are behind us here. The first one, the pictures below, our facility at KMD, we had a hoist refurbishment program, not only for a state of good repair, but an environmental improvement. The newer designs in the in-ground hoists that allow us to maintain the fleet do provide some challenges as it relates to reliability when they've been around since 1987. But some of the newer designs are more self-contained to limit the possibility of soil contamination. So that project is about halfway through at our Kearney Mesa division. In the picture above, this is kind of a strange story, but at all of our facilities, we have wash racks where we clean the underside of the vehicles. We do steaming, not only for air conditioning, but in preparation for inspections. They have clarifiers and drain systems to keep that from going into like the storm water. Some changes in the regulations have required us to actually house that facility. And so we have a nice new building. For those of you who are going to go on the tour today, you'll see it. It's quite a structure, but our team has done a great job in getting that taken care of.
And I will say that this is a city stormwater inspection that this resulted from.
Triggered it, yeah.
And therefore, I would imagine all your cities are going to start seeing this as well.
Yeah.
This is
It really came down to, we were treating all of the byproduct from the steaming of the vehicles through our clarifiers and through the sewer. But because it's an open area, rainwater can now actually get into that, and they want to keep the rainwater in its own separate thing. So in essence, it doesn't go through the sewer or the clarifier anymore. So ZEB transition, big project. Again, huge team behind me. Heather's group has done so much for this, but the ZEB transition has been a big part of our job for several years now. I'm happy to report that we have more than 600,000 miles now on our zero emission vehicles, and that's only 25, and they've only been around since 2019, so that's quite a bit. We've got 12 new ones just recently. We all know about the 227 Iris project. The charging infrastructure you see at South Bay has now become really the model for not only all of our locations, but across the United States. A lot of people are really looking at this project. I'll go through that a little bit more. But we'll continue to build that system out. We're still finishing the commissioning of it. In other words, about half of the overhead units right now are up and running to support that, but it's also going to be the infrastructure that supports the next delivery next year of those vehicles. So it's a pretty lengthy process. Another big component is what we call our CMS, our charge management system. So we're starting that commissioning process. That's the software system that will manage the grid's capacity with what is the cheapest electricity, and at the same time make sure that we charge all of our vehicles in time for pullout. The vehicles themselves, all 25 of them, they're performing pretty well. I mean, all vehicles have their challenges, but really the only structural problem with right now is just range. They get less than half of a typical combustion vehicle. We have plenty of routes that we can disperse them on right now, but that technology continues to improve. And so as we go through the transition, we'll have to match them up with the right routes with the right vehicles. A little more about the 227. It started on the 15th of October. It is powered by a strong contingent of battery electric vehicles. There are 12 for that service, so on any given day, there's usually 10 out there. There are some combustion vehicles that also fill on some of the longer legs or the longer blocks of that route. And it goes between Otay Mesa and the Iris Transit Center. It also connects with our Blue Line system. Some of the fleet highlights: mean distance between failures, one of the main KPIs we look at with the fleet. Second best year since 2019. Again, we got 24 CNG buses to support our fleet. Also, we're just finishing the acceptance of those vehicles right now. And 36 total buses was actually a bit of a down year for us. Next year, we'll have more than 50 vehicles that we'll take acceptance of. And then another project we worked on after a couple of years of testing is, as you see in the bottom picture, a 60-foot articulated bus that's 102 inches wide. It's a lot for an operator to see, especially when you have two, what we call a midship rear door and an aft rear door. And so we developed a new system with an OEM for mirrors on board inside the vehicles above their head, where when they open the rear doors, they can actually see a direct view of that. So another project. And then the 3-position bike rack, that's been a big transition on all our 60-foot buses. Really helps the customers in the first mile, last mile application if they're using a bike. Occasionally throughout the system, the standard has been a 2-position rack. And if you're sitting at the bus stop and you see the bus coming up with 2 bikes on it, you're pedaling a little more, waiting for the next bus. So the 3-position has really added some advantages to that. It was a lengthy process to go through with the regulatory agencies, and the overall length of the vehicle is slightly longer. But all of our 60-foot buses now have 3-position racks. Access service is our paratransit. Ridership is actually a little bit more than 50% of pre-COVID levels. We used to have about 40,000 people on a monthly basis ride our access service. We're up to about 27,000 per month. It is a 29% increase from last year, so it's definitely coming back. Reservation windows, the standard within the industry is at 2 days, meaning within 2 days of when you need a trip is your window to book a trip. We've extended it to 10 days. Really helps the passengers get some extra options, a little easier for them to plan ahead. So we implemented that this year, and that's been well received. In 2022, we put out what was called our Easy Access Portal. It's an app for the customers so that they could book their trips and check on their trips. And so that's been well received, and we've booked nearly 45,000 trips in the last year with that system. This is a little bit redundant, but this is a lot about Amanda's presentation and her team. They really do a great work. And one thing I wanted to acknowledge Amanda, not only she did such a great job, but most of you might know that that was her first presentation to the board. So she really killed it. But it really is a great team. They have, some of the data's here. We've continue to have support for the customers. More than 300,000 calls come through her system. One of our KPIs that she really helps us with is customer complaints across the system. And we did see an improvement, in our number last year. So we're really proud of that. All the stuff that she's done with the passenger support reps and rebranding that, and all the, they're the front line along with the bus operators and the trolley operators for our customers. And they're out there to help. And even myself, when I have friends or family that are coming in from out of town, I say, if you're using our system, look for those people in the red jackets. They know everything and they'll help you out, more so than myself, unfortunately. We also implemented a new call center software system with what we call 5.9. It was originally driven for some PCI compliance issues, but it really helps us with improved analysis and helps the overall customer experience, gives us a lot of that data that you guys talked about earlier with Amanda. And then our Pronto Partners and Partner Extends accounts program with some of the cities and the employment centers continues to grow. Again, as it relates to ZEB transition, San Diego has really become, and specifically MTS, become really a front runner in the ZEB transition as it relates to public transit. And we were lucky enough to be selected nationally to host this year's ZebCon. They've told me they'd like to come back next year, but I think they got to pivot to the East Coast once. But I bet they're going to be back within the next few years. It's a 3-day conference, more than 700 attendees, all the OEMs, and our tours of our charging facility and Myself and several of the team members were on panels. We were, and it's not just me saying it, I think we were the hit of the program, but people really are looking to San Diego to understand the ZEB transition and how to get through the challenges. Amanda covered some of this, but our safety and service awards were slightly rebanded this year. We added not only the service department, not just operators. In the past, it's always been about preventable accidents and acknowledging the operators, but we did it at both divisions just recently. Myself, the CEO, attended. We got big lunches, nice pizzas, and little world famous churros. But we gave up more than 400 employee awards, and part of the national program for what they call the Million Miler, we gave out 10 new Million Miler awards. That means an operator has gone basically 25 years of service without an accident. So, and now I'm going to turn over to Brian Riley.
All right. Good morning. My name is Brian Riley. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer here at MTS Rail. A lot of exciting things that have happened over FY23 that we're going to share today. In the rail division, you may be aware we have approximately 600 employees. I have a tremendous amount of responsibility, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've done over the past year that are really exciting, and happy to share this with you today. First thing we'll talk about is our capital improvement program with Heather's group. One of the things that we do on a regular annual basis is we do infrastructure hardening as far as our right-of-way. And this is a picture here of our Orange Line fencing protection program. On the Orange Line, you can see here at K Street, if you look at the left shot there, you'll see where the fencing is a little deteriorated from trespasser activity. And then you look at the right shot there, you'll see where we've actually gone in, made the repairs to the fence, stood up some stronger structure to prevent trespasser activity on the right of way. So this is on the Orange Line. This is the fencing protection program. This is the Blue Line fencing protection program at Elm Street. It's just on the south side of our Palm Avenue station. You can see in the left shot there that the fencing is deteriorated, allowing trespasser activity to enter the right of way. And on the right side, you can see where the fencing has been actually restructured and up there with a little bit of hardening on it with a top rail bar, so to prevent trespasser activity from entering the right of way. This is our FTA, Federal Transit Administration Bridge Inspection, which is a requirement for all rail transit authorities. It's essentially inspection that is done on an annual basis for any of your aerial structures, your bridge structures, to ensure that you don't have any deflection or deterioration. Something that is required from the FTA, and we do this on an annual basis. This is some inspections that we're doing up on the Grantville structure. This is our impedance bond copper wire hardening program. We try to do about 60 of these a year. And along the right of way, we have copper wire, which is a part of the signaling system that allows the crossing equipment to go down, allows the signaling system to function, and also as a source for our current to go from our substations through the signaling system and through the crossings. If you look on the left there, you can see where the copper wire was actually exposed in the gauge of the track there. This is at our Barrio Logan station. And you look to the right, you'll see where there's some AC or asphalt that's actually covering up the copper wire. Theft has been a real problem for a lot of rail agencies when it comes to this copper wire, because it's so expensive in the recycling centers as far as being able to recover funds. So we do about 60 of these a year. Our goal is to basically harden our entire system. Our system is 65 miles of right of way, so it's quite expansive. But this is something that we have in our capital program that we work on an annual basis, and this is over at the Barrio Logan station. This is something that we really take a lot of pride in. This is our landscaping program. So this is our El Cajon station, and you can see at El Cajon on the left shot there, there's a lot of just regular growth, grass and regular growth. If you look to the right, you'll see where we've gone in and we've actually done a hardscaping project, which actually is a beautification project, makes the place look a lot better. Also reduces our water consumption and our water use. Here's another shot at El Cajon, and you can see really the difference. You look to the left there and you'll see basically where all the ground cover is. Look to the right, you see where we've actually done the hardscaping work that was done this year. So this is the El Cajon station. This is an area that is something that we've really focused on. This is on our Imperial Avenue corridor. And this is a 62nd Street pedestrian ramp. If you look to the left, you'll see where the ramp is basically just a concrete ramp. Essentially is a canvas for graffiti. We've actually partnered with some local artists, Max Moses over in Imperial and Canto area, and we've had them come in and actually do a lot of these murals for us. You look to the right, you'll see that pedestrian crossing actually has a mural now that really integrates into the community there in Encanto. So this is the 62nd Street pedestrian ramp. And then this is 68th Street pedestrian ramp. You can see that, as I mentioned earlier, it's just really a canvas for graffiti. On the left there, you can see, and then on the right, once again, Max Moses, who's actually the artist that we use, which is a local artist. He's actually done quite a few murals for us. He actually did the mural on the right there, which really makes it look a lot better. Gives it a better feel also. This is 32nd and Commercial Street Station up off Commercial. If you look to the left, you'll see that there's quite a bit of tree growth there. And this area was just a real bad area for us for nefarious activity. There's folks, behind the bushes there, using alcohol, drugs, just a variety of things. And there's actually a church right behind that growth. You look to the right, you can see where we went in and we actually took all the growth out and we put a nice little hardscaping project in there. Beautifies really the community there. Here's another shot of 32nd and Commercial, and you'll see right there where our signal case is. If you compare the two pictures, you can see where there was actually the growth, and then you see the hardscape on the right. We've been contacted by the church and also by members of the community, just letting us know that they feel a lot safer when they're going to church with their children. They feel a lot safer when they're inside of the station, and it's really been a much better experience for them when they're actually at that station, whether it's the community or whether it's the riders. So these are projects, beautification projects that we're doing all over the system right now. We're really focusing on areas that, some of those areas that are really the areas that there hasn't really been focused on in the past, in 32nd and Commercial and El Cajon and the Imperial Corridor. This is Old Town. If you look to the left, Old Town Station there used to be a wall right there at Taylor Street, Taylor and Congress. And you can see that there's a bunch of activity going on there. Folks sitting on the wall there, littering, using alcohol, using drugs. There's a store right there. And this is one of our main centers. We had our facilities team go in that location, remove the wall, put a nice bezel around where the trees are located at, and put a hardscaping program in there, which really beautified the station there and made people feel a lot safer. We've been contacted by the store lease occupants, and they've said that it's really made a big difference as far as, what we've done at the Old Town Station as far as the activity. People feel a lot safer, and it's a lot better looking, a lot more beautiful. So we take a lot of pride in these kind of projects. These are those projects that our facilities teams, they go out, and I empower them to take looks at and look at opportunities where we can do these kinds of projects, which actually is a benefit for our customers, the customer experience, as well as the agency. I know council member or board member Montgomery Steph was earlier talking about tree remediation. We did quite a bit of tree remediation along the Imperial Corridor. This is a before shot on the Imperial Corridor of the palm trees that are out there. These are all palm trees that are all along the Imperial Corridor. And there was a couple different threats to our organization when it comes to these palm trees. And one of the threats was that the potential for these trees to fall on our overhead catenary system, which is the overhead system that we operate under. The other threat, and we've seen this many, many times over the years, is fire, because they're not being maintained. They dry out and they actually become almost like a Roman candle when they catch on the fire and when we get into the dry seasons. So with the support of our CEO, Sharon, and with the team that works for me, we got together with our capital team and also our procurement team. We went out and we got a contractor, and we basically did a remediation. We removed several of these trees, and the ones that we didn't remove, we did a really good tree trimming on them. So this is what the Imperial Corridor looks like now. Quite a difference. You don't see all the palm trees that basically were really an eyesore and also a hazard for us. They've been removed, and the ones that are there are nice and neatly pruned now. This is another project that we do, and this is something that we do on a regular basis in our capital program. Is we do remediation of our parking lots. We go in, we do a grind, and we do an overlay with AC with AC, and then we restripe it. This is the Maya station. You look to the left there, you see a Maya station. That parking lot was in really bad shape, and that just happens, over time, wear and tear. And you look to the right, and we actually went in, like I mentioned earlier, we did a nice little grind, nice overlay, and restriped the parking stalls. This is right here at Imperial Avenue, right downstairs. We had the leased parking lot that we leased out to Ace for many years. We've actually reclaimed that parking lot now, and we're using that for our own employees. We went in, we did the exact same thing. We did a grind and overlay, AC overlay. We striped it, put cameras in the parking lot, as well as keypads for our employees to actually be able to use this parking lot. And they're very, very thankful that they don't have to park on Imperial or look for parking to be able to get to work. So this is a project that was really important to us within the rail division. For those of you that have been around for a while, you may remember we had the great floods down here in the downtown area that really impacted our facility, our C yard. This is a picture of our C building, the doors that were on the building. We had a flood that actually the water intrusion got into the building and damaged one of our brand new wheel turning machines. We had a brand new wheel turning machine we had just dropped into the subgrade. It was $1 million machine that got flooded out and we had to replace it. So we got smart. We said, hey, you know, there's a potential for this and this risk is real. So we replaced these doors. We also put water intrusion barriers on the C building, and you'll see these. Those of you that are going to go on this trip today with us, the tour, you'll get an opportunity to see this firsthand. So those are the water intrusion barriers that are on the C building right now that are on the left. And those are the brand new doors that we put on the building, C shop building here in the rail yard. Imperial Double Track project. It seems like we're always talking about our capital teams. Heather and her team, they're so fantastic. They're always doing something. There's always something going on. MTS is always building. We're always doing some sort of rehabilitation effort. Right downstairs, we are currently doing a rehabilitation effort on the Imperial Double Track. And that effort is to add a second track. And why is that important? That's important for us for frequency and for capacity. Currently, or previously, the Imperial track downstairs was just a single track, and we could easily run a 15-minute headway in there, but it was some constraints for us. Anytime you have a single track on a rail system, it really constrains your ability to increase your frequency and your capacity. So we are currently in construction, and as we go downstairs today for our tour, we'll point this out. We're in construction to add a double track down there, and we're moving along pretty well. This is a shot here of what the single track looked like on the left, where we came in on one track and we departed off that track onto the eastbound track, headed back out to Gaslamp. And on the right, you'll see a double track configuration and the track structure where we actually are going to have the ability to have two tracks there, which will allow us to have much more frequent service for the big events like Comic-Con, operating anywhere from 5 to 7.5 minute headway at a very frequent pace. Once again, Heather and her team, they're currently working out in El Cajon, and I know Board Member Goebel's aware of this project. This is at El Cajon and Board Member Hall. This is the side track, third track that we're building currently out at El Cajon. This project went into construction in 2022, and we anticipate we'll be finishing up in sometime at the end of this year, or excuse me, end of next year, 2024. This is the third track project. This picture here, you'll see where we built a retaining wall structure and also a pedestrian access point for pedestrians to be able, ADA walkway for pedestrians to be able to access the station. This project, we still have a lot more work that needs to be done, signaling work. We have a lot more track work that needs to be done, and overhead catenary system. As I mentioned earlier, we anticipate we'll be finishing up this project somewhere in probably the third quarter of 2024. Very, very exciting. And this is one of those things also, like I mentioned, single track. Single track exists between Gillespie Field and Santee Station. And this is going to give us ability to be much more frequent. Our 5,000 series vehicle commissioning, our vehicles that we have that are operating on our system, we're currently commissioning vehicles and putting them in service. So we have 25 vehicles out of an order that we purchased that are currently have been delivered to San Diego. They've been commissioned and they're out operating. We have 4 that are in production up in Sacramento, which is our partners at Siemens, that are currently in production of the 22 options that we have. We anticipate getting the next vehicle out of that 22 option here next month in December, and we'll go right into the static and dynamic testing. And we do pretty much all of that. Everything that we do as far as our new vehicles, we do in-house as far as our inspection and our commissioning and putting these vehicles in service. A lot of rail agencies throughout the United States, they use consultants to do that kind of work. We have those expertise here in-house, and we've been doing it since the early 2000s. This is a shot of our vehicles being commissioned, 5046 through 5070. Some of our guys up in Sacramento doing factory inspections, and that's the 5061 here in San Diego. MTS Vehicle Second Life Program. Many of you are aware that we have a Second Life program, and we partner with partners down in Argentina, Mendoza. The first vehicles that we had, which was our U2 fleet, we have 13 of those vehicles that are currently down in Argentina, Mendoza, that are currently operating. And we have another program that we're engaged in now with our second generation vehicles, which is our ST100 vehicles. To recycle a vehicle when you're decommissioning a vehicle, it can be very expensive, very costly. 13 of the ST100 vehicles have been actually recycled at $10,000 a pop. And there's 39 vehicles that we committed to donating to Mendoza, Argentina, along with the previous fleet that we've donated. This is just a shot on the right of us actually getting the vehicles prepped for shipping, put on the back of a flatbed. They get shipped up to Long Beach and they get shipped over to Argentina, Mendoza. If you could have an opportunity, go on YouTube, Google it, and you'll be able to see these vehicles with the same red paint job operating down in Argentina, Mendoza. This is a shot of the vehicles actually operating in Mendoza. There's 9 of them that are down there right now. We're currently getting ready to ship 3 more at the end of this year. Out of those 9 vehicles that are down there, that really the only thing that changed, the numbering sequence is still the same. You can see the 2001 to 2003, but there's a different name that's on the front of the vehicle. It says Mendo Train. That's the name of their operating system down in Mendoza.
And I will mention that they also paid some of our mechanics to go to Mendoza to help them figure out how to operate and maintain those.
And we take great pride in that. Great pride in that of being able to have that partnership with Mendoza. And we want to be really the model for other agencies when it comes down to decommissioning vehicles and trying to have those kind of second life projects. Rail safety and operations. One of the things that we do here at MTS is we benchmark, we compete, we check with our peers. We want to know exactly how do we match up with our peers. And so this is a slide with other agencies that are in the state of California with rail accidents. So in the calendar year of 2022, we are comparing ourselves San Diego, Sacramento, Santa Clara, LA Metro, and San Francisco Muni. In that year, calendar year 22, we had 19 accidents, vehicle accidents. Next to us was Sacramento, SAC-RT, 39 accidents. Santa Clara, 47 accidents. LA Metro, 76 accidents. And then San Francisco Muni, 120 accidents. So that's something that is really important to us as far as being able to be out there and be safe in delivering that service that we deliver. And then, you know, when you look at it and you look at per million miles, what does that mean? Per million miles, what do those accidents mean? Well, every million miles that we operate, San Diego has 1.5 accidents. And you look at some of our other peers in California, and you can see how they compare to us. So this is something that we're really proud of, being safe, and we wanted to share that with you. One of the things that we also do, and I'll go over this slide really quickly, is we evaluate and we analyze where are accidents happening and how do we prevent accidents from happening? How do we reduce that risk? One of the locations that was high on our list was in 2022 and 2023 was First and C. And we analyzed and we evaluated, why are these accidents happening? Well, most of them were run red lights, illegal right turns into our trains. Most of them, I don't think any of them were the cause of MTS. So we partnered with the municipality, City of San Diego, and we looked at this intersection and also state of California. And we came up with some recommendations of things that we could do to make it much more visible for motorists. If you look to the left in the picture there, you'll see that the arm there only has 2 lights on it, one for basically on the right side and one on the left. Afterwards, we have 3 lights on it now. We want to raise that visibility of what you need to do when you get there, whether you're going to stop or whether you can actually make a right turn or a left turn. So that's one of the things that we did at First and C, and we'll continue to monitor that and see how that pays out. System and vehicle familiarization, outside agencies and personnel training and emergency drills. This is something that we do on a regular basis. We partner with the Navy. We partner with several different municipalities and brought them down to be familiarized and trained on our vehicles should we have some sort of incident and they need to access our vehicles, whether it's an emergency incident or an accident. Special events. You know, this is something that I think that we do so well, oftentimes they kind of go unrecognized. We've had over 175 special events in FY23, and we're on pace to have more in FY24. That means that we've had roughly 2,400 extra trips that we've operated. And out of those 2,400 trips that we operated, we estimate that 875,000 extra passengers were carried. We also opened up the Snapdragon Stadium this year, and that's been very, very active. Just to put these special events into perspective, Petco Park this year, we had 93 events there. Snapdragon Stadium, we had 27 events. San Diego State, we had 44 events. And other major events that we had 11, which one of those major events is a major event. It's like a Super Bowl every day, and that's Comic-Con. Talk a little bit more about Comic-Con 23. We had a special event line that we operated from Balboa down to Imperial, the area where we're building that double track down in Imperial. That's going to come in real handy for us. We enhanced our service on all our lines, the orange, blue, and green. Most of the time when people think about Comic-Con, they think it may just be the special event line that's impacted, but all of our lines are impacted. We had extensive efforts from all of departments at MTS. Lots of planning goes into these types of events. And this is just a nice note that we got from one of our customers that said, hey, MTS, this was top-notch operations during Comic-Con. We value that. We want to hear that feedback. And that comment got 222 views on the social media. Put things in a little bit more in perspective, 2022, 2023. 2022 for Comic-Con, we carried 236,000 passengers. These are just special event passengers. In 2023, we carried 250,000 passengers. And if you look at that over the 4-day period, as I mentioned, it's almost like a Super Bowl every single day. And I've been involved with Super Bowls here at MTS. I was involved with the last Super Bowl here. You can see that on a regular week, the previous week in 2023, we carried 388,000 passengers in that 4-day period. During that 4-day period in Comic-Con, we carried 638,000 passengers. That's a quarter more million passengers that we carry. And we're very, very proud about that, that we were able to do that in that period of time. Our next slide here is just the ridership associated with Comic-Con. I think this is a very valuable slide for you to see. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the special event line that's impacted. You see the blue line, there's a 29% increase in ridership. Orange line had a 25% increase in ridership. The green line had a 72% increase in ridership. And then our special event line that we spoke about between Balboa and Imperial, we carried 99,000 passengers just on that line coming into Imperial Terminal for Comic-Con in that 4-day period. And with that being said, any questions or comments, we'll be happy to answer those at this time. Lots of exciting things going on here at MTS, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that presentation. We appreciate that. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. We have two. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Stick to math, not security, Steve. Why don't you ask if those ridership numbers were unique rides? Fraudulent emergency lockdowns do seem to spark up, don't they? Forget air, MTS requires purification because we got great priorities of pizza and churros for workers with dangerous conditions for the riders. Board policy number 42 makes 0 sense. I do not see customer focus with 60 seconds to speak. George, did you really hear Alex Wong's fast comment earlier? Doubt it. For the competitive objective, MTS is the only bad choice in town, and public transit isn't competitive with cars when it takes 2 to 3 times as long to get anywhere. The sustainable system objective, even with very strong anti-private car agendas, debt dollars are not guaranteed. And the on-time performance doesn't seem accurate. Those trolleys are notorious for electric slowdowns and shutdowns. But I like to chart about subsidy per passenger because without taxpayer money, this non-competitive business is gone. It was a drill to put out a battery electric bus out of a maintenance shop if on fire because lithium. But the special event line should always be
Your
done.
time
if
has
possible.
expired. Jared Caswell, please unmute yourself now. Jared, looks like you're still muted. Jared, it looks like you're still muted. We can move on, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Clerk. Is there any board discussion on this item? This is an informational item. Seeing none, thank you very much for taking the time to provide.
Sure.
Yes, Member Aguirre.
Thank you. I know we're almost at time here, but generally, I want to thank all of you for all the great work, all of your teams. Mr. Riley, it's really great to see all the investments in some of these areas that historically have been underinvested in. I know, Mr. Wygant, your team has been doing a great job. I want to bring up at this moment, since we did touch on the 227 and we're in a transition, right, with the rapid bus. I did want to raise some concerns that have been brought up for us in Imperial Beach. I want to caveat my comments with saying that Dennis and Beverly were great. They were very open and came to our council to answer questions from the community. But I did want to raise this flag since now, because it's still early and I want to make sure that I voice those concerns from my community. They're specifically regarding the 227 route that goes down 3rd Avenue, which is a very residential area. Last night, our staff hosted a meeting with community with over 60 people showed up, and we do have a very comprehensive list of concerns that they've raised. But in general, I do want to have us have the potential of revisiting the specific route on 3rd and maybe looking at 9th or 13th, which are more business oriented avenues in our city and less residential, especially because this street has a lot of families with small children. And there's a lot of concerns around safety with that. And then also just want to, well, there's a laundry list of concerns that we can definitely discuss offline. We don't need to discuss them right now. But there were at least 3 buses that stalled and had to be towed out of our town. One was on Seacoast and Palm. The second one was on 9th and Palm. And there was a 3rd one that stalled on the 905. So just wanted to raise those concerns since now. And I'm sorry to rain on your parade. This is your end of year celebration, but better now earlier than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Aguirre. All right, well, with that, thank you very much, Mr. Desmond and Mr. Wygant, Mr. Riley, for the presentation. Thank you, Ms. Woods, for preparing all the data that was presented here. Very much appreciate hearing that report. All right, well, that will bring us to our other items. Are there any board member communications? Member Gastel?
Yeah, I want to make sure people know that the annual meeting of Facilitating Access to Coordinated Transportation, better known as FACT, is December 5th. And as some of you know, I'm Vice Chair of FACT. We're very excited that CEO Sharon Cooney is going to speak at the annual meeting, and Mr. Elo Rivera is going to speak at the annual meeting, and Jack Shu, who many of you know, is also going to be speaking at the annual meeting. So at December 5th, and you should have all gotten an invitation, but if you need to get it again, just let me know, and I'll make sure it's a morning meeting. It should be, it's always really good, and that's the only thing I have.
All right, thank you very much, Member Gastel. Any other communication? Seeing none, let's get public comment. Clerk?
Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Let's just hurry up, get the public comment, get it out of the way. It's only 60 seconds anyways. You know, I saw that a contract approved by Sharon includes one with Baker Electric, over $43,000 for big fans. And you know, that's disgrace to Sandy Naranjo's husband, Andrew McKercher's former employer. So that's maybe not a good choice, you know, the pay-to-play misconduct, Brown Act violations, kind of like today going on, pretty similar. You guys might want to clean up your act too. And Sharon, I saw you at the last SANDAG. You should probably be at every meeting. Hey, maybe we could talk about MTS. Wouldn't that be fun? I'm actually a lot nicer if you give me more than 60 seconds, though, I'll tell you that. I want you guys to know somebody told me this. They said about this event today in your communications. Reduced to nothing except as commoditized products. The intent is to reduce speaking time, content, volume, and voices to zilch, I assure you. End quote. That's what they said. And I actually agree. I say, yep, they're pretty much looking at us as just resources.
Your time has
Just get them.
expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. All right, the next Board of Directors meeting is scheduled for December 14th at 9 o'clock. We have one closed session item, and we will now move into closed session.
Is there any public comment on closed session?
We do. Phone number ending in 3731. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Hey, it's Truth. I'm back. I saw this property in question of 1313 and 1344 National Avenue is about the parking lot across from the MTS building you guys are in. Why are the negotiating parties unknown? I could guess that the price will be in the millions and millions. And I'm curious why the San Diego Housing Fund and the San Diego Foundation are negotiators. That gives me stack and pack vibes, especially because all the homeless encampments and the people who lived in them and walked around in that area have now all been swept away. I always wonder where they went to. It's not like there were actually enough shelter beds for all those people to go to, and nor would all of them accept one anyways. It looks like a ghost town. It's pretty sad. If anywhere right nearby down Imperial Avenue with nothing there but the trolley was a good place for the encampments or even a future shelter. But I think it's going to be greedy, expensive stack and packs for the developers. I'd like to be wrong. We'll see. You guys can tell me after. Thank you very much for my 60 seconds.
Your time has expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. We will move into the closed session.
okay to report out? Reporting out of closed session, item number 26, conference with real property negotiators, regarding the 1313 and 1344 National Avenue. The board received a report and gave instructions to negotiators. This meeting is now adjourned.